Welcome to Moonlight Love Chapters. We'd be thrilled if you could subscribe to our channel and leave a comment on this video. Thank you so much for your support. May the power of the werewolf be with you. Chapter 16. Dana. From the moment I woke up, my thoughts were consumed by one thing, Theo. Just like last night, I had the same disturbing dream. Liam had said there were problems in the pack, that someone had disappeared, and ever since then, a sense of unease had settled inside me, not letting go for a second. I sat in class, but the words of the professor were just a blur. In my head, Liam's offer to return kept resurfacing. Honestly, I didn't want to leave either. I just hoped Theo would stop me. But he didn't. He didn't even try. I wondered what he would say if I came back. Would he be happy? Or think I was imposing? Oh, how I didn't want him to think of me that way. I absent-mindedly stared at my notebook when my phone suddenly vibrated in my pocket. Liam was calling again, and it only increased my anxiety. What if, while I was here struggling with chemical formulas, something truly serious had happened? Suddenly, everything else seemed so insignificant compared to the threat that could be looming over my friends. Barely waiting until the lecture was over, I rushed out of the classroom and immediately called Liam. He picked up instantly, as if he had been waiting for my call. Dana, finally. His voice was tense. I was in class. I blurted out. What happened? Nothing yet. His words made me exhale in relief, but the yet sounded worrying. He shouldn't have added that. I wanted to know what you decided about coming back. You and Theo need to talk, set everything straight. He needs you. He's changed since you came into his life. And you know what? I like this Theo more. I bit my lip. If I were so important to him, he wouldn't have let me go. I muttered with regret. You're wrong, Dana. Liam's voice was confident. Trust me, he'll be happy if you come back. I paused. Liam was Theo's brother. He knew him better than anyone. What if he was right? Could Theo have really talked to him about me? Weighing everything, I realized I had nothing to lose. And to see him, oh, how I long for that. I'll pick you up in a couple of hours, Liam announced. Be ready. Okay, I gave in. I'll wait for you by the college. A warm wave of anticipation spread through me. I would see Theo again. Talk to him. Everything would become clear. He had to tell me the truth, and whatever his decision was, I would accept it. 2 hours later, I was standing by the college, anxiously scanning the road for Liam's car. Suddenly, someone softly embraced me from behind. Startled, I turned around, breaking free from the embrace, and found myself face to face with Roma. Dana, you left so quickly after class. Is everything okay? Yes, I replied shortly. Only now did I realize that any attraction I had felt for Roma had disappeared without a trace. As soon as there was hope that I could have a future with Theo, Roma no longer seemed interesting to me. How about we go somewhere tonight? To a club or a restaurant? A date? I can't. I have a lot to do. I quickly declined. I still have to figure out those formulas. I miss so much. I can't catch up. I'll help you, he insisted. Come to my place. I'll explain everything.
No, I answered firmly.
Someone's picking me up. So, sorry, but it's definitely not happening today. Roma sighed, but didn't argue. All right, next time. But promise me that someday you'll accept my invitation. Maybe someday, I said, just to get rid of him. His persistence was starting to annoy me. But now I have to go. See you tomorrow. Bye, he replied, but there was a hint of disappointment in his voice. I no longer thought about him. All my attention was focused on the road where Liam's car was supposed to appear. Soon, I would leave this place. To the pack, where Theo was waiting for me. Roma gently brushed his lips against my cheek, leaving a warm, almost weightless kiss, and, without saying a word, disappeared around the corner. I stood still, as if glued to the ground, listening to his fading steps. My heart fluttered, and a strange mix of light sadness and anticipation swirled in my soul. A few minutes later, I noticed a familiar car approaching. Liam's headlights illuminated my silhouette from the dusk. Then the car smoothly slowed to a stop at the curb, and the door opened with a click. I jumped into the front seat, barely containing a smile that wanted to stretch across my face. Inside, impatience bubbled up. With each passing mile, my burning desire to see Theo only grew stronger. My heart beat loudly in my chest, almost as if echoing a nervous rhythm. My breath was shallow, and my fingers nervously tugged at the hem of my jacket. But when we crossed the threshold of the house, the world seemed to tilt. I froze, as if rooted to the spot, my eyes locked on the scene that shattered all my illusions.
Tay. Me Tay.
In the living room, kissing someone else. The world seemed to drown in a rush of noise, like a wave of ice-cold water crashing over me. Tears welled up, but I stubbornly blinked them away, refusing to let them fall. My chest tightened so painfully, it felt as though I might suffocate. All my dreams, all my feelings, gone in an instant, reduced to ash. How could I have been so stupid? How could I have allowed myself to believe in a fairy tale? I told you it was a bad idea. My voice was barely a whisper, trembling with emotion. Without looking back at Liam, I pushed the door open and ran outside. The cool air hit my lungs painfully, but even it couldn't cool the burning heart inside me. Somewhere behind me, I heard a furious growl, but I no longer cared. Hurt consumed me from within, robbing me of the ability to think. I didn't know where to go or what to do. My legs grew weak, and I grabbed the porch railing, trying to steady myself. My breath was shallow, and dark spots danced before my eyes. Realizing I couldn't hold back anymore, I sank down onto the cold steps, covered my face with my hands, and allowed the tears to fall.
Tay.
The story Alice told stirred a dark fury inside me. Every word, every look reminded me of how cruel this world could be. My fists clenched, trying to suppress the boiling hatred within me. When we returned to the pack, I invited Alice inside for some tea. She initially refused, citing urgent matters, but I insisted. Now we sat in the living room. The tension in the air was almost palpable. Alice set her cup on the coffee table and looked at me carefully. "What are you going to do, Theo?" I felt a wave of rage rising again inside me. "I'll find Amir and rip his damn guts out." A growl escaped me, and I shot up from the couch, heading for the fireplace. Rage churned in my chest, the thirst for revenge unbearable. If that bastard thinks he can take me on, he's sorely mistaken. I'll track him down, and when I find him... Theo, Alice's soft, almost pleading voice interrupted my flow of fury. Her slender fingers gently touched my shoulder, freezing me in place. "Don't," she whispered. "You're not a killer." My heart tightened. For a moment, I seemed to fall into the past. Memories surged so sharply that I nearly groaned in pain. "You don't know me," I exhaled, breathing heavily. I turned around and grabbed her wrist sharply, holding it just a little too tightly. "I'm not who I was anymore." The words came out in a rush, something more than just anger behind them. It was pain. Pure, burning, agonizing pain. "After what you did to me." "Theo, you're hurting me," she whispered, barely audible. I looked into her eyes, gray, sorrowful, filled with not just pain, but something else. Love. I loosened my grip, releasing her hand, but my gaze remained fixed. I couldn't tear my eyes away from her. I looked at her, losing control. Those sweet features, dimples in her cheeks, just like Dana's. "Dana," I groaned, barely realizing what I was doing. In the next moment, I was on my feet, pressing my lips to hers, roughly, passionately, with a growl. At first, Alice froze, but then she gave in, her fingers buried in my hair, responding to the kiss with equal passion. My hands moved to her hips, gripping her firm buttocks. The desire to possess her overtook me completely, but something inside me protested, as if the beast within knew I was making a mistake. And when I finally realized that I wasn't kissing Dana at all, it was already too late. I jerked back, locking eyes with hers, filled with tears. And then, Dana rushed out of the house, not giving me a chance to explain. In the next moment, a wild roar echoed, and before I could react, a powerful blow to my jaw sent me crashing to the floor. I bit my tongue, and the taste of blood flooded my mouth. Liam towered over me, fists clenched. "You're such an idiot," he spat with fury, then rushed after Dana. And I was left lying on the floor, breathing heavily, my fingers curling into a fist. What have I done? The wolf inside me growled, bristling with rage. He didn't approve of my actions, and I understood him. I had made a mistake, hurt Dana's feelings. But I never meant to. I thought I was kissing her. Damn it. This was madness. I saw her in Alice, in every girl I met along the way. Dana became my obsession, my pain, my passion. And now, standing on the edge of a precipice, I risked losing her forever. No, I wouldn't allow that. I wouldn't let fate separate us again. Taking a deep breath, I caught her scent in the air, a delicate, intoxicating fragrance that always brought me back to my senses. I pushed the door open and stepped onto the porch. Dana was sitting on the steps, her face hidden in her hands. Liam was sitting next to her, and when his hands gently wrapped around her shoulders, jealousy surged within me, sharp as a knife. I should be the one sitting next to her. I should be the one comforting her. What the hell was Liam doing touching her? Anger boiled inside me. The beast roared, tearing to get out, demanding action. I lunged forward, grabbed Liam by the collar of his t-shirt, and yanked him away from Dana. My fist collided with his cheek with a sickening crunch. He steadied himself, but a moment later, roaring, he lunged at me, knocking me to the ground. Hitting the cold stone, I lost my breath for a moment, and Liam raised his fist. "Stop." Dana's desperate cry cut through the air like a flash of lightning. We froze. She stood up, looking at us with bitterness and exhaustion. "I don't want you breaking each other's bones because of me." Her voice trembled, but her gaze remained firm. "I don't care. Do whatever you want. I'm leaving." She abruptly turned and walked toward the gate. I jumped up, shook myself off, and rushed after her. Everything inside me screamed that I had to stop her. Explain. Confess. Dana, wait. Let me take you home. I hope to talk on the way, to tell her everything. No need, Theo. She didn't even turn around. This is better. I'll drive her, Liam's voice said, and he walked past me. I gritted my teeth, watching him go. Damn you, brother. Maybe he's right. Maybe it's really better to leave her alone for now. But not forever. She'll still remember me. When the car disappeared around the corner, I shifted into the wolf and darted into the woods. Running was my only escape. Each step, each paw hitting the ground cleared my mind. The air was thick with scents, decaying leaves, pine, animal tracks. But I wasn't thinking about hunting. Over and over in my head, one name rang out, Dana. But another name wouldn't let me rest. Amir Zahor. That bastard was the owner of the casino and Alice's ex. I hadn't seen him, but I could feel the danger. And my beast sensed it too. When I returned to the pack, I immediately set off to find Liam. His scent led me to the office. He was sitting at his desk, and without knocking, I barged in. "We've got a problem, brother," I said, crossing my arms over my chest. Liam lazily squinted at me. "Do you know something I don't?" I talked to Alice before I trailed off, clenching my jaw. "Before you kissed her?" A hint of jealousy slipped into his voice. I irritably shrugged. Don't twist it. It's not what you think. But right now, something else is more important. I stepped closer. Amir Zahor knows who we are. Bullshit. Liam crossed his arms. Don't be naive. Alice blabbed about the pact to him, and now that bastard has kidnapped Trey. Liam scoffed. Why would a casino owner kidnap one of ours? I clenched my fists. Damn it. Put it all together. He knows about us, he's dangerous, and if you don't call the council now, we might lose not only Trey, but the whole pack. Liam stared at me silently, assessing. If you're right, this is serious, he sighed. But if these are just your guesses, I slammed my fist on the table. Call the council, Liam. Time's running out. Chapter 17.
Teo.
Liam trusted my instincts and called the council. The very next day, 3 alphas from neighboring packs gathered in our house. I expected support, but what I heard only stirred up irritation and indignation. Do you have any proof? Dimitri, the alpha of the northern pack, asked coldly. A girl's words and the disappearance of one of your werewolves, that's not serious. Trust my senses, I replied firmly, holding back my anger. Senses? The alpha of the Grey Wolves drawled mockingly. We're supposed to rely on senses? It's never failed my brother. Liam intervened, but his words had no effect on the alphas. I gritted my teeth, feeling my anger boil inside. They didn't want to listen. They dismissed my suspicions as empty noise. I was consumed by icy fury. How could they so easily brush off the threat? We're wasting time, Dimitri said, leaning back in his chair. If there's really a threat of exposure, let us know. But for now, sorry, I have things to do. I'm leaving too, Arthur nodded. See you, Alexei said indifferently. When the door closed behind them, I clenched my fists, trying to calm my rage.
No, did you see that?
I exploded, looking at my brother. How can they ignore the warning? They need proof. I scoffed. Well, they'll get it. A plan sparked in my mind. I already knew what to do. Liam wouldn't like it. What are you planning? My brother asked, wary. I don't like the look in your eyes. Alice will help us. We'll use her as bait.
Bait.
Liam frowned. This is madness. She's human. She could get hurt. I noticed the concern in his voice. Why did he care about my ex? Nothing's going to happen to your Alice, I said with a smirk. She came to us for protection and I want to protect the pack. I interrupted, unable to hold it in. And I won't let Zahor play with us. We'll kill him. End of story. Liam gritted his teeth, staring at me defiantly. He didn't want to agree with my methods, but I was unyielding. Alice will help me get Zahor. I've made up my mind. Even you won't stop me. I growled and stormed out of the room. I barged into Alice's house without knocking, following her scent. She was sitting in front of the TV, but when she saw me, she jumped to her feet. Theo, what's going on? She frowned, looking at my face. Do you want to help the pack? I asked, not wasting time. Of course. I want to make up for my mistake. Then you need to meet with Amir. Alice flinched and took a step back. Meet with him? Her voice trembled. I don't want to see him. Theo, please. You promised you wouldn't give me to him. He'll kill me. Her eyes filled with fear, and her body tensed, as if anticipating inevitable disaster. He won't kill you, I said confidently. He needs you alive, and you're our only chance to lure him into a trap. But her voice faltered. You don't understand. I growled. You screwed up, now fix it. Alice froze, staring at me with terrified, tear-filled eyes. But I didn't pity her. All right, she exhaled. This is the right thing to do. This is madness. Liam roared, entering the room. I won't let you use Alice. Liam, Theo's right, Alice said quietly, lowering her head.
I need to fix my mistake.
Liam silently approached her, cupped her face in his hands, and asked seriously, "Are you sure?" She nodded slowly. Liam sighed heavily, as if accepting the inevitable, but his eyes still held a flicker of concern. He stepped closer, took Alice's hand, and looked straight into her eyes. "Then I won't try to stop you." His voice was soft but firm. "Just one thing. Be careful." For a few seconds, time seemed to freeze. Their gazes locked together, as if trying to say everything that words couldn't convey. And then Liam leaned in and kissed her. I squinted and smirked to myself. So that's how it is. Turns out Dana had nothing to do with this. Liam liked Alice from the start. How did I not see that earlier? When my brother pulled back, he ran his thumb across her lips, as if memorizing their softness. "Whatever happens, remember. I'm here," he whispered. "Liam." Alice uttered his name in a trembling voice, mixed with fear, tenderness, and something else, something barely perceptible. "Everything will be fine, I promise." This time, she was the first to reach for him, and their lips met once again in a kiss. Well, that's some passion. They stared at each other, as if forgetting the world, time, and me. Damn it. "Hey, you're not alone here," I reminded them, rolling my eyes. "You'll be cuddling in the bedroom. Away from my sight, if you don't mind." Alice blushed, lowering her gaze, but I wasn't interested in their romance. "I've got a plan," I declared, taking control of the situation again. "Alice, you need to call Amir. Tell him you want to talk, set up a meeting at a cafe, and promise to show him where the pack is. After that, the rest is simple. We'll wait for this bastard." Liam frowned, but his eyes sparked with understanding. "You want to lure him into a trap," he guessed.
Exactly.
"We'll kill Amir Zahor." That thought filled me with frantic excitement. Adrenaline rushed through my veins, and I clenched my fists, anticipating tomorrow's meeting. Tomorrow, I would tear that bastard apart. I looked at Liam. He had finally understood the main point. Protecting the pack without spilling blood was impossible. And if we didn't strike first, the enemy would do it for us. "Just keep in mind, Amir never comes alone," Alice warned. "He always has bodyguards with him." "Tomorrow we'll see how good they are," I smirked predatorily, confident in my abilities. Without wasting any time, I headed for the door. Once outside, I crossed the yard with quick strides and was about to shift when I suddenly caught a familiar scent. Lotta. I turned around and met her playful smile. "Theo, darling, I've missed you so much." Her voice was melodic and affectionate, and her hands immediately reached for my chest. "You're the one who told me not to come again," I reminded her, irritated as I pushed her hands away. "Sorry, I wasn't myself." She tried to touch me again. "Come tonight, I'll be waiting." "We'll see," I said coldly. Of course, I wasn't planning on going, but telling her that directly would waste time on unnecessary explanations.
Now go.
I need to be alone. Without waiting for a reply, I shifted and darted into the woods, inhaling the scents of the night. But my mind wasn't focused on Lotta. Dana. Damn it. She wouldn't leave my thoughts. Loneliness crept into my heart and stung painfully, making me grit my teeth. I couldn't accept the thought that I would never see her again. Memories rushed through my mind. Warm touches, kisses, her body when she came out of the shower. I gritted my teeth, clenched my fists, trying to push the obsessive thoughts away, but my body was already on fire with desire. Damn it, this was driving me crazy. I suddenly turned around, shifted back to my human form, and headed for the pickup. Today, no matter what it took, I would find Dana and talk to her. Chapter 18.
Dana.
The lecture hall was filled with the monotonous hum of the professor's voice, and I absent-mindedly traced my pen across the paper, taking some notes. My thoughts wandered far away, and I mechanically wrote down the words of the lecturer, not really absorbing their meaning. "Dana," a muffled voice behind me called out. I turned around. Sveka was handing me a folded piece of paper.
"This is for you."
With some hesitation, I unfolded the note. "Want to go for a walk tonight?" "Say yes." I immediately recognized Roma's handwriting. I looked up. He was watching me with a slight smile, waiting for my answer. An enchanting, disarming smile. I bit my lip, hesitating. Should I give him any hope if my heart still belonged to Theo? An unexpected knock at the door broke my train of thought. "Good morning. May I have a word with Dana Mironova? It's very important." I froze. That voice. My heart skipped a beat, then started pounding so hard I thought it might leap out of my chest. I stood still, feeling my breath catch, my fingers going numb as I gripped the note. Only sheer willpower kept me from jumping up and running to him, not caring about the curious gazes of my classmates.
"Wow."
Ksyusha, who was sitting next to me, sighed dreamily. "Who's that handsome guy?" "Mironova, can you step out for a moment?" The lecturer reminded me. I slowly rose, feeling my legs shake. I took a step, then another. Once I stepped into the hallway, I met his gaze, and shivers ran down my spine. He was here, standing right in front of me, alive, real. His dark eyes were focused on me, as if trying to read every emotion on my face. I clenched my fists, suppressing the wild urge to run to him. "What are you doing here?" I quietly asked, doing my best to keep my voice steady. "I need to talk to you," he replied calmly, but there was tension in his voice. "If I came to your house, you'd slam the door in my face. At least this way, there's a chance to explain myself. You don't owe me any explanations." I crossed my arms over my chest, as though placing an invisible barrier between us. I didn't want to hear excuses.
"Not now."
"I do." His voice softened, but the stubbornness remained. "What you saw, it's none of my business," I interrupted, trying not to let my voice tremble. "You're an adult. You know what's best for you. And who am I to ask for explanations?" He pressed his lips together, but I didn't let him say another word. "That's it, Theo, I need to go. I've already missed too much." Turning abruptly, I walked back into the classroom and took my seat, not even allowing myself to glance back. My heart was pounding loudly in my chest. My cheeks were burning. "Dana," Ksyusha immediately started probing as soon as I sat down. "So who was he?" "No one," I muttered, gritting my teeth.
"Sure."
"No one doesn't look at you like they're ready to tear apart anyone who gets close to you." I didn't respond, burying my face in my notebook, but I could feel Roma's gaze boring into me. "Well, Theo, now you'll have to suffer a little too." "Oh my gosh, Mironova, what was that?" Ksyusha immediately loomed over me, her eyes sparkling conspiratorially. "Such a handsome guy. You're secretly jealous of all of us, and yet you have a prince on the horizon." I rolled my eyes and began gathering my pens, trying not to show any emotion. "Ksayu, leave it alone. Come on, don't keep me in suspense. Just look at how he was staring at you. That look." She theatrically rolled her eyes and clutched her heart. "And yet Roma is trailing after you, and now there's another candidate for your heart." "Theo's not mine," I said shortly, hoping it would cool her down a bit.
"Te?"
she repeated, savoring the name. "That's interesting, sexy." She giggled. "Listen, don't tell me he's your brother."
"No."
"So not your brother, and not yours?" Intrigue. She smiled slyly, but didn't get a chance to ask more. "Zosimova, Mironova." The professor's voice made us jump. "If you want to discuss your personal life, do it after class." "Sorry," I mumbled, trying to hide my embarrassed smile. But even with my head buried in the notebook, I could feel Roma's burning, heavy stare on my back. He was pretending to focus on the lecture, but I knew he didn't like Theo's sudden appearance. He was wrong to be nervous. I wasn't planning on throwing myself into Theo's arms. Yet. Let him suffer a little too. Feel what it's like to be on the sidelines while your person slips through your fingers. Maybe that will make him realize that I'm not forever. Danka, how about we go to Zodiac tonight? Ksyusha suddenly nudged me lightly with her elbow. The girls and I decided to hang out there, have a drink, relax. We don't have the first class tomorrow. You can sleep in. Actually, I was planning to go over my notes. We have a test the day after tomorrow. I need to prepare. I began to decline. Oh, come on, I'll help you. Ksyusha looked into my eyes with such a contagious smile that I gave in. Okay, what time?
7.
Then I'll see you at 7, I smiled. Since my mom passed away, I had almost stopped hanging out with my friends. I always felt disconnected from life, and now, maybe it's time to reconnect. After classes, Ksyusha really helped me sort through my notes, and then she left. When I arrived at the cafe at 10 to 7, the atmosphere was cozy and bustling. People were laughing at the counter. Waiters darted between tables, carrying steaming cups of coffee and clinking cocktail glasses. I took a seat by the window, waiting for the girls. But as soon as I looked up, a sense of alarm flared up brightly.
Roma.
He was walking straight toward me, holding a gorgeous bouquet of scarlet roses. Where are the girls? What's going on? The realization crept in slowly and unpleasantly. This was a setup. Hey, he said, beaming like a shiny new coin as he sat down across from me. Were you waiting for me, beautiful stranger? I froze, feeling a strange mix of confusion and irritation. I mumbled, looking at the flowers he had skillfully placed in front of me. Did you plan all of this? Even talked Ksyusha into it? But he seemed completely pleased with himself. He waved over the waiter, ordered champagne, and before I could even blink in confusion, 2 filled glasses were in front of us. No, this isn't going to work.
Roma, listen.
I began, gathering my words with determination. You're a great guy. It's easy and fun being with you, but I see you only as a friend. The joy in his eyes dimmed.
Why?
I sighed. Arguing now was pointless. I needed to say it plainly. Because I love someone else. He frowned, but didn't back down. And where is this other guy? His voice had a challenging tone. Isn't it that musclehead in the pickup truck? Funny how you preferred his company over the girls. I clenched my lips, giving him a chance to stop, but he continued. Silent now. Guess I have something to say. Since we're on the subject, he sighed, ran a hand through his hair, and leaned in a little closer. For you, I gave up a life that many dream of. Do you know where I was supposed to study? At Harvard. Yeah, my father could have given me everything, prestige, money, connections. But I chose this backwater college because you were here. I blinked in surprise. And you? He shook his head. You're running after some thug and expecting love from him? I looked at him closely, feeling anger flare up inside. Is that everything? Asked in a steady voice. Yeah, he muttered, leaning back in his chair. I silently picked up my glass, took a sip of champagne, and set it down again. Then I'll leave. I was ready to stand up and declare that I was leaving when suddenly I felt someone approaching. As soon as I looked up, my heart slammed against my ribs and my breath faltered for a moment.
Tay.
He was walking straight to our table with a confident, predatory stride that radiated tension. I swallowed, feeling a storm of emotions rise in my chest. He found me.
But why?
I involuntarily tensed, not knowing what to expect. Today at college, Dana didn't even want to talk to me. She avoided my gaze, answered questions coldly, and then just walked away as if I were invisible. I knew I deserved it. I knew I had let her down too many times. But damn it, did I ever give up? When classes were over, I got into the car and just waited. I can be patient when I need to. I wanted to talk to her, give her a chance to hear me out, to explain. But things didn't go according to plan. She didn't leave alone. She was with a friend. If I approach now, she'll just ignore me again.
Fine.
I'll wait. I was sure I'd have another chance. Maybe at her place, there, no one would bother us. But as soon as I started moving, I saw that Dana was heading in the other direction. Not toward home. Where are you going, little wild thing, this evening? I squinted and felt a vague suspicion spread in my chest. I was about to pull up and ask, but curiosity won out. And then something else joined it, jealousy. It hit me like a lightning strike, instantly overriding common sense. I watched as Dana got into a bus. At that moment, I started the engine and followed her. My inner beast was growling, snarling, demanding immediate action. Wait, I mentally told it. She got off at a stop near the park, and I was forced to leave the car behind. All that was left to do was follow her. I felt like a damn idiot.
No, seriously.
Like some jealous hysteric spying on a guy suspected of cheating. I even involuntarily chuckled to myself, but quickly regained control when I saw Dana heading toward a small cafe with a sign that read Zodiac. I froze.
She's meeting someone.
A sharp, unpleasant stab pierced my chest, and I clenched my fists. I didn't wait, I walked straight in, and what I saw instantly flooded me with furious rage. At the table with Dana was some smug bastard who was clearly trying to charm her. And she was sitting across from him with a bouquet of roses in front of her. My wolf howled inside, bristling, demanding to be let out. I barely held it back. My hand clenched into a fist on its own. Who's going to stop me if I rip this idiot's head off right here and now? I hope Dana is smart enough not to fall for his cheap compliments and these pathetic flowers. I didn't waste another second. I walked with determination to the table where my girl was sitting with this polished jerk. What a touching sight. I stopped right in front of them, folding my arms across my chest and twisting my lips into a fake smile. I hope I'm not interrupting. Looks like everything's so real here. Champagne, flowers.
Romance.
I shifted my gaze to Dana, whose face immediately lit up with alarm. So with me, you didn't even want to talk, but you're sweet-talking this. I gritted my teeth, barely holding myself back from calling him what he deserved. Rich kid. Dana straightened up, her eyes wide. You were following me? I ignored her question. My gaze was firmly fixed on this well-groomed peacock in an expensive shirt, with perfect hair, champagne, and pretentious roses. Does he think he can win my girl over?
Huh.
The beast inside stirred, bristling, ready to break free at any moment and show this turkey who's in charge. My temples were throbbing, my whole body tense to the limit, fists clenched so tight my nails were digging into my skin. I nodded, giving him a cold stare. So, rich kid, how about we step outside? I didn't give him a chance to respond. In one swift move, I grabbed him by the collar of his leather jacket and yanked him out of his seat. He jerked back, shouting something, but I was deaf to his protests. I dragged him outside, pinning him to the hood of his car.
Teo.
Dana's worried voice reached me. I shot her a glance, but didn't answer. All my being demanded one thing: to put this show-off in his place. What the hell are you doing, you jerk? He rasped, coming to his senses. Do you even know who you're messing with? I smirked. Oh, of course. With the idiot who decided to stick his hands where they don't belong. He pulled out his iPhone, clearly intending to make a call to someone. But I beat him to it. I snatched the phone away and crushed it in my hand, turning it into a useless pile of plastic. Then, without a second thought, I tossed it onto the asphalt. Roma froze, staring at the broken gadget. His lips tightened, and anger flared in his eyes. That was a mistake, asshole. He lunged forward and shoved me in the chest. I didn't even budge. Inside, everything was boiling. The wolf was growling, demanding blood. I was shaking with rage. In one swift motion, I grabbed him by the throat and slammed him into the wall. He gasped, struggling to break free. Useless. I could feel his fear growing, though he was trying to look brave. Theo, let him go. Dana cried, rushing closer. You'll kill him. I gritted my teeth. Let go?
Him?
The one who tried to take the most precious thing from me? I'll let him go. I spat through clenched teeth. But first I'll break this puppy's neck.
Dana froze.
Roma, even in mortal danger, found the strength to say, you can kill me, but Dana, she still won't be yours. That was the last straw. I squeezed his throat harder, feeling him starting to suffocate. The wolf howled, demanding to finish him off. The whole world narrowed down to one thought, to erase this cocky bastard from existence. Theo, please. Dana grabbed my arm. I growled and shoved her away. Roma coughed, gasping for air. I looked down at him, my fury burning. One more time you go near my woman, I growled, and you'll beg your mommy to give birth to you again. I shoved him with all my strength, and he slammed into the hood of his car. He nervously swallowed, but tried to hold his ground. You'll regret this, you asshole. He hissed, jumping into the car. Get lost before I change my mind, I said coldly. He sped off. Dana stood nearby, her eyes full of fear and anger. But I didn't care. I protected what was mine. And I'll do it again if I have to. When the engine roared to life, my mind, filled with rage and a desire for revenge, suddenly cleared. I looked around for Dana, but she was gone. Only her pain, her despair, lingered inside me, and I felt again how I needed to punish myself for letting my woman get hurt.
Dana.
I understood that Theo hadn't meant to hurt me, that he didn't intentionally push me away, but in that moment, I couldn't control myself. The hurt pierced my heart like sharp needles, and tears streamed down my face. I kept running through the woods, not paying attention to the path, until I was completely exhausted. Stopping by a majestic oak, I tried to catch my breath and slowly calmed down. What am I doing? Who am I trying to run from? Inside, anger raged. At Theo. At myself. I didn't understand what was happening between us. Didn't know if I even mattered to him. One minute he kisses another girl. The next he's trying to explain himself. One moment he's jealous. The next he pushes me away. Why does it have to be so complicated?
Dana.
Theo growled behind me, but I didn't turn around. My heart raced, a shiver ran down my spine, but I kept my back to him, trying to hold back the tears that were threatening to fall. Are you out of your mind? His voice was full of fury, and I involuntarily felt every muscle tense. When he touched my forearms and turned me toward him, I instinctively recoiled. His hands didn't let go. Before running away, you could have at least thought his growling voice was full of concern. Was one meeting with hyenas not enough for you? I looked at him, unable to look away. His stern voice, his strength, his wild temperament triggered a strange reaction in me. My hands almost involuntarily reached for his clothes, and my thoughts painted pictures of touching his body, feeling his fingers trace my skin, him taking me and driving me to maddening pleasure. I swallowed, feeling the wetness gather between my legs. Theo remained silent, his gaze piercing me, and I couldn't understand what would happen next. He just stood there, watching me, his nostrils slightly flaring as if he were trying to catch my scent. Suddenly, his voice broke through like a thunderclap. Stop. What? I didn't understand what he meant, and I glanced sideways, asking the question. Stop tempting me, he whispered, releasing me and stepping back. I looked at the ground, at the bright autumn leaves, which lay like a vivid carpet beneath my feet, as though they hid something secret and important. Theo continued to breathe heavily, his gaze still fixed on me, and I didn't know what to expect from this moment. Suddenly, sharply, he pulled me toward him, his words desperate. "I wish I could forget you. Then forget." My voice cracked, but it didn't soften, and his words vanished into the forest. I jerked, trying to break free from his embrace, but he held me tight. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst from my chest. "I can't," he shouted, pulling me even tighter, giving me a slight shake. I close my eyes, and I see your body, and it ignites a desire in me that I can't ignore. With each word, his breath became heavier, and I felt as though the ground was slipping away beneath me. I felt embarrassment wash over me completely. My cheeks flushed, and my breathing became quick and erratic. "And your scent," Theo continued, his voice now deep, filled with passion. "It's everywhere. It haunts me day and night. It steals my peace. It doesn't let me rest for a second. My beast responds to it, and I can't stop. Every time I see you, I want to brand you, show everyone that you're mine. You're mine, Dana. We need to be together. We were made for each other." Those words made the ground beneath me seem to vanish. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I didn't know what to say. How badly I wanted to believe that everything would be okay. Theo ran his palm up my forearms, and when his fingers touched my neck, I shuddered. An electric shock ran through my skin, and every nerve in my body responded to his touch. His fingers tangled in my hair, pressing on the back of my head, and pulled my head toward him, toward his lips. The kiss was insistent and hungry. It consumed me and erased all doubts. I pressed against him, my arms wrapping around his neck, and I felt the heat in my lower abdomen grow, filling me with desire. He lifted me, grabbing my hips, and I instinctively wrapped my legs around his waist. One hand held me up, the other ran on my back. Inside, a storm of emotions was raging. The kiss grew more passionate. His insistence intoxicated me. His tongue playfully aroused me, and I started losing track of time and space. My thoughts reduced to nothing but desire. But suddenly, Theo abruptly set me back on my feet and took a step back. His nostrils flared, and his gaze became tense, as though something was troubling him. "We need to leave," he said, worry in his voice. "What happened?" I felt panic rising, not understanding what was going on. "There's a pack of hyenas nearby." He grabbed my hand and, without saying another word, led me toward the park. I sighed, feeling a sense of dissatisfaction, but I didn't argue. Chapter 19. Dana. I was a bit disappointed. A thought flickered through my mind that Theo might have just made up the story about the hyenas to avoid talking to me. But that seemed ridiculous because I could clearly feel his desire, his feelings. His words about not being able to forget me, about us needing to be together, still made me smile, filling my heart with warmth. No, my wolf couldn't have made all of that up. What are hyenas doing near the park? I asked with worry, looking around the empty street. There were so many people here, unaware that predatory eyes might be watching them from the forest. Those creatures often roam through other territories looking for prey, Theo replied calmly. Nothing surprising. If you're still wondering why they attacked you, just forget about it. You're not their target. They often attack the weak, those who can't defend themselves. Of course, I was just a weak human woman, unable to protect myself. Theos' words didn't offend me, but they left an unpleasant feeling in my chest. I didn't continue the conversation, silently following him. He led me by the hand toward the place where he had left his car. While we were driving to my house, I couldn't bring myself to look at Theo, afraid of meeting his detached gaze. The tension hanging in the air was unbearably thick, as if it was seeping into every cell of my body, making it hard to breathe. I involuntarily coughed, and Theo, noticing, slowed down and turned toward me. "Are you okay?" His voice sounded indescribably worried. "Yes, just choked." I tried to reassure him. And that was the extent of our conversation during the whole drive. I turned away, looking out the window, watching the cars pass by, but my thoughts kept returning to our kiss. I wanted to feel his lips on my skin again, to let him do whatever he wanted with me. Just thinking about it made my lower abdomen tighten painfully, and a wave of heat spread through my body. I clenched my teeth, trying to distract myself, and nervously started peeling off the nail polish, as if it were to blame for how I felt. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed Theo glancing at me several times, but I didn't dare turn and meet his gaze. It seemed like he knew what I was thinking. His scent, capable of catching even the most elusive of smells, left no doubt. He could clearly sense all my emotions. And now I started wondering, how do I smell to him? Does he like my scent? Vaguely realizing I was thinking about all sorts of nonsense, I calmed down. The inner tension eased a little. I glanced at his profile, tense as he focused on the road, and smiled faintly. How good he looks. Masculine, with a slight stubble on his face, but at the same time so gentle. I wanted to trace my fingertips over his unshaved cheek, outline the shape of his lips, and once again, the excitement overwhelmed me like a dangerous avalanche. I even feared my own feelings. Theo clenched his teeth, and a barely noticeable shiver ran through his jaw, as if he were trying to control the flood of emotions. It seemed like he felt something, but what exactly remained a mystery. When the pickup finally stopped in front of the house, I glanced at Theo and, exhaling deeply, said, "Well, that's it." I didn't really understand what I meant by "that's it." Something elusive, indescribable, froze inside me. "Let's go," Theo said quietly, turning off the engine. "You don't have to walk me out." It slipped out of me, and feeling that I said something wrong, I quickly added, "We'll talk later. I need some time." "All right," he replied calmly. "I won't pressure you." But at that moment, I felt regret that Theo didn't go against me, didn't insist. Since when did he become so restrained? I would have preferred if he had grabbed me in his arms and dragged me home. And there, we could have figured things out. Then, "See you," I said, pressing my lips together and, feeling disappointed, got out of the car. "See you," he quietly replied. I headed towards the entrance, climbing the steps as though each one was heavy. Opening the door, I took off my jacket, kicked off my sneakers, and as I was about to go into the room, I heard a doorbell ring. I jerked, suddenly turned, and opened the door. "I can't just leave like this," Theo said, and, slamming the door shut, he was right next to me again, his lips finding mine, hungry, without warning, making me forget everything. One of his hands slid into my hair, and the other pressed me so hard I could barely breathe. The kiss was relentless, as if he was trying to melt my will, to awaken feelings that were bursting to get out. We clung to each other with our hands, as if we didn't want to lose the invisible thread that connected us at that moment. And I realized that I couldn't live without this man anymore. I want to be his. I want to be only his.
Kiss only him.
Let there be a chasm between us, but it's nothing compared to what we feel for each other. Love destroys all barriers. I responded to his kiss with greed, with a primal hunger, feeling our tongues intertwining, and my whole body trembled, engulfed by the fire of his love.
He's mine.
Only mine, and no one else's. Pulling away from my lips, Theo lifted me by the hips. I instinctively wrapped my legs around his waist, and he carried me to the room. Setting me on the bed, he took off my sweater and kissed my stomach. The touch sent a wave of heat through my body, as if I had suddenly found myself at the epicenter of a volcano. I sighed softly, and Theo, hearing the sound, growled, and I couldn't hold back a smile. Perhaps I just didn't want to spoil anything. I took off my sweater, unable to hold back my impatience, and threw it on the floor, eager to rid myself of that hated rough material. Theo's gaze was full of expectation. His eyes narrowed slightly, as if an invisible curtain of anticipation was behind him. Slowly, I took off his t-shirt, revealing his strong, tanned chest. How many times had I dreamed of touching it, feeling the softness of his flawless skin, so tender yet strong. Kneeling, I ran my palm over his muscular contours, and the warmth of his body seemed to envelop me. Inside, desire ignited. I couldn't resist and kissed his chest gently, then ran my tongue along his valley. His eyes closed, guttural sounds escaped his throat, and I, enjoying the moment, kept teasing him, not letting our attraction fade. His hands began to wander across my back, gently caressing, and a wave of pleasure spread over my body. Theo, with one movement, freed me from my bra, and it slid across the floor, leaving me slightly bewildered but insanely aroused. My heart skipped a few beats, and suddenly I felt embarrassed to be bare from the waist up. But unable to stop, I wrapped my arms around his neck and pulled him closer. He laid me on the bed, propping himself up on his elbows and, looking into my eyes, gently brushed a strand of hair from my face, kissing me softly, melting in his kiss. That moment when a spark of electricity shot through my body, like lightning, and I felt a powerful wave of pleasure sweep through me. I involuntarily held my breath, and my lower abdomen hummed quietly, demanding release. Theo pulled away from my lips, locking his gaze with mine. Inside me, everything trembled like taut wires under pressure. One touch, one word, and I was ready to explode, dissolve into this crazy desire. My breath became deep and heavy, and I felt the heat inside me, filling me, leaving only the flame of passion. I was on the edge, as if I was about to scream, begging him, "Take me right now." And I couldn't hold back. "Theo," I whispered, meeting his gaze, where golden sparks danced. "I need you."
Right now.
He didn't hesitate, didn't torment my soul any longer. Without a second thought, he removed my jeans and underwear, discarded his own clothes, and covered me with his body once more. I felt my heart begin to race, and the hot blood started to pulse in my temples. I bit my lip, closing my eyes, unable to suppress a faint moan of pleasure. I wanted him, all of him, his soul, his body.
Completely.
To let him in and never let go. Theo and I settled comfortably on the couch, holding each other, and I felt like I was in seventh heaven. Finally, everything fell into place. Almost everything. There was still one small but important thing, the girl he had kissed once. "You'll come with me to the pack," Theo said, kissing my forehead. "This isn't up for discussion." "I'm not against it," I replied, smiling and gently rubbing my cheek against his. "But the girl, Alice is still in the pack, but I don't care about her. Remember this, you're my mate. And she's just a misunderstanding, part of the past." "Why did you kiss her then?" "I thought I was kissing you. You two are so alike, and I was out of my mind." A foolish excuse, I know, but that's how it was. "I believe you," I said with a smile, feeling warmth on my lips again. "I realized you're the only one my beast can accept, and the one I love. And I realized I love you," I whispered in reply. "My girl," Theo whispered in my ear, and his words sparked a wave of pleasant shivers that ran through my body. His lips pressed against mine, and I lost the ability to think, my head spinning, consumed by this thrilling moment. Chapter 20.
Theo.
"Forgive me for everything," I said, breaking the kiss. "For the words I once said to you. For the way I treated you. After my mom's death, you needed support so much, and I gritted my teeth, scolding myself for my selfishness. I know what it's like to lose parents. I never spoke about her with anyone, not even with my brother. It's too painful, too heavy. The memories, they strike like an electric shock. just as painful. They leave burns on the soul, wound the heart. They torment, cause suffering, and sometimes kill. You can never get rid of them. They're with you forever. It's been a long time since the hunters shot my mom during a run. She died in my arms, but I never allowed myself to be weak. I kept the pain inside, blaming myself, but staying silent. Liam and I were left alone when our father, unable to bear our mother's death, followed her. He couldn't find the strength to live. We should have been there for each other, become stronger, closer, but I renounced the role of alpha and left the burden on my younger brother's shoulders. And now, I don't know if my decision was right. I also lost my mother. I finished holding back my emotions. She died in my arms. I'm so sorry, my dear. Dana gently ran her palm across my cheek. If it's hard for you to remember, you don't have to. But I wanted to open up to her. More than I'd ever opened up to anyone. We ran together. I continued, despite her words. I remember how then that shot. Mom fell, like she'd been struck down, and I ran after the hunter. I gritted my teeth, feeling the muscles in my cheeks tighten. I caught up with him, tore his throat out. Blood flooded my throat, and I knew it didn't make it any easier. But I had to kill him. I went back to Mom, changed back into a human, lifted her up, and carried her to the pack. I fell silent, gathering my thoughts, then continued. At that moment, I felt so empty, so hollow. It felt like my heart had been ripped out. I didn't know how to go on, how to cope with this, how to live without her. And my father didn't know what to do either. He died of grief, burned away right in front of me and Liam. I clenched my fists, but felt Dana's warmth and support spreading through me, relaxing me. My father's death hit me even harder. I shut myself off from everything that mattered to me. I didn't care about anything, not even the pack. You've endured so much pain, but it's made you stronger, just like it's made me stronger. I hugged Dana tightly and buried my nose in her hair. The vanilla scent of her skin seemed to envelop me, soothing me and giving me a sense of comfort. Suddenly, I heard my brother's voice in my head. "Theo, where are you?" His anxious voice echoed. I flinched and mentally replied, "I'm with Dana." "What happened?" "You sound worried." "Roger's gone. Looks like he was shot and taken. Twain just found a shell casing while patrolling the area, and there's blood everywhere. Roger's blood. Damn. Do you think it's a mirror?" "I'm not sure. How would he know where the pack is?" My brother's voice sounded panicked. What if Alice told him? Everything went wrong after she showed up. "It's not her." Liam answered with such certainty that I could feel his irritation. "Forget all your grudges and leave her alone." "Fine. Once I'm back with the pack, we'll figure everything out. I think it's better for Dana to stay here. He'll be back soon. Don't move and don't make any decisions without me." "Okay." Reluctantly, I pulled away from Dana and stood up, pacing the room. Soon, I couldn't hold it anymore and swore. "Damn it. What happened?" Dana asked, coming up to me. "Our beta's gone. Looks like he was shot, but Liam doesn't know where he is. I need to get back to the pack and you stay here." "But Theo," I said, "stay here." I raised my voice. "It'll come back for you." Kissing my mate, I left. I didn't want to leave her alone, but in this situation, it was safer for her. I sped down the road in the pickup, driving like a madman, knowing that every second of delay could cost another pack member their life. The anger and rage coiled in my chest like a poisonous snake, tearing at my soul. If Alice was involved, I promised myself I wouldn't care if she liked my brother. I'd rip her arms and legs off and feed her to the hyenas. When I reached the pack's territory, I jumped out of the car and headed straight for Alice's house, barely holding myself back from shifting. I wasn't surprised to see Liam there. "It's you. You betrayed the pack." I growled, rushing at the former. "Theo."
Gandao?
Liam shouted, not letting Alice say a word in her defense. I'm tired of your distrust of her. He stepped between me and her, protecting her. How could you think that Alice tried to protest, but I didn't let her finish. Who, if not you? Or are you trying to tell me there's a traitor in the pack? I growled, looking at Alice with such a glare that she involuntarily stepped back. You're here at the mercy of the pack. And that's only because our alpha is too weak to be a true leader. He pitied you, the sweet girl who asked for help. And now he's even fallen in love with you. My fury blinded me, clouding everything. I could barely comprehend what I was saying. Liam couldn't take it anymore and charged at me, knocking me down and punching me in the jaw. The blow brought me back to my senses. I threw him off me, and seizing the initiative, I pinned him down. If it's not her, then who? I tried to convince my brother, grabbing him by the chest and shaking him. None of ours could have betrayed us. I got up, looked at Alice with hatred I couldn't hide, and released Liam. Breathing heavily, I stepped back, seeing her as the source of everything that had happened. We didn't need to fight over her. After all, it might not be Amir who took Roger, my brother said thoughtfully, getting up from the floor. Maybe we've been too focused on him and aren't seeing other threats? Right now, we need to act together. Give Alice a chance. I met his gaze and, holding back my discontent, nodded. Fine. But only one chance. And the last one. Now listen to me both. I straightened up and, addressing my brother, who was holding Alice, continued. This conversation stays between the three of us. If there's a traitor in the pack, we'll find them. But for now, we need to be careful.
So, here's the plan.
Tomorrow, around noon, you'll call Amir, I nodded toward Alice, and set up a meeting at Fresh Cafe. There will be lots of people there, and he won't be able to do anything openly. You'll give him fake coordinates for the pack, and that's it. Liam and I will wait for him there. And trust me, that bastard will regret getting in our way. I don't understand why we need this meeting. Liam objected. We can talk to him on the phone. They need to meet. I insisted, standing firm. I want to see that bastard in person before I rip his balls off. I need to smell him, feel him on an intuitive level before we go into battle. And what if something goes wrong? Liam asked, squinting. Don't be a pessimist, brother. I answered, patting him on the shoulder. If Alice is right, and this idiot really wants to get himself a werewolf, he'll bite. From now on, it'll be his mistake. He won't see us coming. Chapter 21. Alice. I was sitting in front of the TV when the door suddenly slammed open and Theo appeared in the doorway. My heart began to race. I jumped up from the couch, irritably pulling at my tunic, and asked, Theo, what's going on? Why are you barging in without warning? Do you want to help the pack? He asked unexpectedly. The question caught me off guard. Of course, I wanted to help, but what could I do? Weighing Theos' words, I made a decision, even though it wasn't easy. Okay, they'll do everything. It's the right thing to do. I was terrified of Amir, but in the end, I had started all this, and now I had to fix it. When Liam came into the house, his voice filled with fury, saying that this was madness, I firmly responded that I wouldn't change my mind because I had made the decision myself. Liam's unexpected kiss stunned me. I was confused, but I didn't pull away, letting him continue even though Theo was in the living room. For a moment, I wondered if Theo would see and feel jealous, but it quickly faded away. A pleasant warmth spread in my lower abdomen, and my body was covered in goosebumps. The kiss turned out to be truly thrilling, to the point of trembling, to madness. When Liam pulled away and traced his finger across my lips, saying, "Whatever happens, know that I'm here," I suddenly realized how much I needed him, just like I once needed Theo. Without thinking for another second, I kissed Liam. Perhaps this impulse was driven by the upcoming meeting with Amir. I was afraid I wouldn't return, that this would be the last moment I could kiss Liam and test my feelings. Amir Zahor was a terrifying man, a true monster. The tortures he put me through were impossible to forget or forgive. I hoped he would believe in my sincerity. Otherwise, I couldn't imagine what awaited me. The key was not to break down. I had to be convincing, cold-blooded. I cursed the day I went to his club. I should have stayed with the pack, but I gave in to my friend's persuasion, and now I was paying the price, not only for myself, but for the innocent werewolves as well. But I would fix everything. Around noon, the Fane brothers and I headed to the city. My heart pounded nervously beneath my ribs. Just the thought of Amir made my chest feel cold, like an icy wind. But as soon as I reminded myself of who I was doing this for, everything seemed to return to normal. The anxiety faded, and my determination grew stronger. Now that so much depended on me, I couldn't give up, especially since I just needed to talk to Amir and leave. There was nothing to fear. When Liam parked the car in the cafe lot, all my resolve seemed to evaporate in an instant. Damn, I can't do this, I exhaled, feeling the tears well up in my eyes. Not this, not a breakdown. It's too late to back out, Theo muttered coldly, turning to me. He handed me his smartphone. Take the phone and call Amir. Everything will be fine. Today, I'll tear his rotten heart out, and you'll have nothing more to fear. Theo's words gave me a little courage. I took a deep breath, trying to gather my strength, and exhaled as I took the phone. I have a bad feeling, Liam said, looking me in the eye. Maybe you'll change your mind? Why meet with him? Don't try to stop me.
Please.
I'll meet with him, and you all will wait for him where we agreed. Everything will go as planned. I'm calling. My fingers trembled as I dialed the number. My heart was pounding, blood pulsing through my veins. Heat, like fire, spread through my body, and when Amir's low, cold voice came through the receiver, sending shivers down my spine, I almost backed out. Swallowing, I hesitated, but with a force of will, I didn't end the call. Clearing my throat, I said the name I hated. Amir, Alice, he exclaimed in surprise. You're the last person I expected to hear from. Since the day you left me, I've been thinking about you all the time. I'm so glad you called. Where are you, baby? You're really glad? What words did I want to hear? That he was happy to take revenge on me for running away? Of course, sweetie. I love you. His voice softened, deceptively warm. If I didn't know him, I would probably believe him. But I was familiar with his manipulations, and that sweet tone was just a game. It was all a lie. When you love someone, you don't try to hurt them. But you let your thugs torture me. I blurted out, unable to hold back. All the pain that had built up overwhelmed me. My chest tightened, as if in a vice. The scars on my arms started itching again, as if they were bleeding. Liam, sensing my discomfort, placed his warm hand on mine, and I calmed down a little. I needed information. We could have avoided this if you had told the truth. You know I get what I want, Amir continued coldly. I didn't care who was in front of me, my love or your son. Will you torture Ronka too, if he doesn't tell you everything? I couldn't take it anymore, unable to understand how someone could be such a cold-hearted bastard. If you have something to say it. Amir's voice became harsh, icy. My time is valuable. I have something, and I'm willing to share for a reasonable price, I said, deciding to play on his greed. If, of course, you're still interested in werewolves. Fine, let's meet, he agreed. Name the place. I'll wait for you at the Fresh Cafe. But leave your thugs at home, or there's no deal, I said, and hung up. What was that about? Theo growled, ripping the smartphone out of my hands. You decided to make some money off this too? His dissatisfaction hit me like a blow to the chest. How tired I was. Amir's no idiot, I answered calmly. He might suspect I'm too easily ready to sell you out. Let him think I'm mercenary. I don't care. The main thing is for him to believe me. I didn't need to recap the conversation for the brothers. They heard everything thanks to their keen hearing. Liam almost ruined everything at the last moment when he insisted on coming with me as a cousin. He was worried about my safety, but I convinced him that everything would be fine with Emir and that he wouldn't hurt me. At least I hoped so, and I prayed he would fall for my trap. I sat at a table by the window in the fresh cafe, and while I waited for Emir, I ordered coffee. I drank 1 cup, then ordered another. The anxiety was starting to affect every movement I made, and I felt like I needed to do something about it. Silently, I gestured for the waiter and ordered a shot of cognac. When the drink was on the table, I hurriedly drank it and felt the fear dissipate as if it had been blown away. This was better. "Hey, baby." A loud voice sounded behind me, sending icy shivers down my spine. I tensed up like a string, and in a moment I saw him. Emir tried to kiss me on the cheek, but I pulled away. "Aren't you happy to see me?" he asked with a smirk, unbuttoning his dark blue jacket and sitting down across from me. "After what you did to me, you're still asking," I replied, trying to keep my voice cold.
Quiet. Qui dondront attention.
"As you can see, I'm alone. Say what you wanted to say, and then we'll part ways." I looked into his black eyes, trying not to show any fear. Let him see that I wasn't afraid. "Did you bring the money?" I asked directly, as if it was my top priority. Of course. Emir pulled a white envelope from the inside pocket of his jacket and placed it on the table. "You'll get it when you tell me everything you know. Are you interested in the pack's coordinates?"
Emir changed.
His face, which had been calm before, now showed surprise. "Give me one good reason why I should trust you," he said, thoughtfully studying me. "Because I need money urgently, and I'm ready to sell my soul to the devil," I said, trying to make my words sound convincing. Inside, I felt satisfaction from my own courage. "Fine," he said, not losing his confidence. "Let's say that's true." I held back my irritation. What a jerk, still doubting. "I'm waiting," Emir said, leaning back on the couch and placing his hand on it. Without hesitation, I pulled out a pen, unfolded a napkin, and quickly wrote down the coordinates of the place where the Fiennes brothers were planning to deal with Emir. I placed the napkin in front of him and felt relief. "Good," Emir beamed, glancing at the numbers. He tucked the napkin into his pocket. "It all matches." He slowly slid the envelope with the money toward me. I hid it in my bag, feeling the cold metal inside my wallet signaling the start of something else. "Now get up, we're leaving," he said, and stood up. "What?" I jolted, feeling a wave of fear. I shifted in place, unsure of what to do. "I'm not going anywhere with you. This isn't what we agreed on." I knew Liam and Theo could hear me, and that lifted my spirits. They wouldn't let Emir hurt me. That thought kept me going. But Emir roughly took me by the arm and dragged me with him. Not toward the exit as I had expected. In panic, I tried to break free, but his grip only tightened, causing pain. "Don't struggle, sweetheart," he whispered with a smile. "You know it will be better for you." We exited through a back door and found ourselves at the car. A dark uncertainty enveloped me. I felt my breathing becoming harder. If I were an asthmatic, I would probably have suffocated by now. Emir forced me into the car despite my resistance, sitting next to me. "Andre, let's go." He ordered the driver. "What's going on?" I protested. "Where are you taking me?" "Don't worry, darling. We're going home. Haven't you missed me as much as I've missed you?" His smile briefly gave me chills. Emir grabbed my chin and pulled me toward him, then snarled. "Do you think I'm an idiot? I've known where that damn pack is for a long time." My chest clenched, icy tremors swept over my body, and I realized I was caught. I was in a trap, and the guys wouldn't have time to save me. They were already too late. Who knew Emir would prepare for the meeting like this? The whole plan had fallen apart. And Liam was right, sensing this. What would happen now? Want me to tell you a secret, sweetheart? Amir said with a theatrical smirk. His words made my knees tense with anxiety. I could tell nothing good was coming. I have an informant in the pack. So don't try to deceive me, or next time you'll pay. An informant? I gasped, unable to believe my ears. That's impossible. What absurdity, was Amir spewing. Werewolves don't betray their own. They're loyal to their pack and alpha. Who could have done this? No, I didn't believe it. This must be a bluff. But why would he lie? I don't understand. You should know better, baby, that nothing is impossible for me. If I want something, I'll get it. And right now, I want you to be obedient. His rough hand slowly slid down my leg, running over the denim fabric and moving toward my groin. If you're a good girl, I'll appreciate it. I know how to be grateful. I froze, holding my breath, my chest tightening. I held back tears that were ready to break free, gritting my teeth, struggling against the urge to hit him. But damn, if I do that, he'll take revenge and get what he wants. I can't let that happen.
I'll hold on for as long as I can.
While I was lost in thought, the car drove out of the city, and soon a majestic mansion appeared before us, which, unfortunately, would be my next home. Those 40 minutes on the road had been pure hell. Amir seemed intent on having fun right there in the back seat. I remained silent, absorbed in my thoughts, trying not to react to his words. I partly accepted that this dictator awaited me, but I hadn't lost hope. Liam and Theo would definitely find me, and I had to do everything I could to be useful to them. I needed to learn the name of the traitor and pass the information to the brothers. Chapter 22.
Theo.
Liam and I were watching the meeting from across the street. Every word, every movement didn't escape our attention. I was sure everything would go perfectly, already imagining the moment when I would tear the heart out of that bastard. But everything went sideways. Seeing Amir grab Alice by the hand, my brother and I rushed toward the cafe, but we were too late. That bastard turned out to be smarter than I thought. I underestimated him. He slipped away, the coward, pulling the girl out through the back exit while we, like two idiots, were rushing through the front. We didn't make it. It's too late to mourn now. Damn it, I growled, watching the car take Alice away. Rage pierced me, heavy waves of disappointment pounding in my head. What kind of idiot am I? I told you not to involve Alice. Liam roared, his eyes burning with fury. Without a second thought, he punched the wall, and it trembled, as though it would collapse under his strength. I felt him as if he were myself, my brother, and I were one. His anger overwhelmed mine, and the grief and despair that consumed him dug into my heart, making my wolf whine in response. Liam was breathing heavily, ready to rush after the car, but I grabbed him by the chest and slammed him into the wall. Calm down. You won't help Alice by acting like this. It's my fault, and I'll fix it. Do you hear me? I'll fix it. My words were full of resolve. I had never been in such a situation, not knowing what to do, but one thing was clear. I had to get Alice back. My brother had waited for his mate too long to lose her because of my mistake. Let's go, I said, patting Liam on the back. Let's return to the pack and figure out what to do there.
No.
Liam roared, his face twisted with rage. I'll track the scent and find Alice. You can go to hell. Listen, we need to go back, I insisted, not backing down. Amir has probably taken her to his place. Well, find out his address and pay him a visit unannounced. If this bastard owns a casino, getting the address won't be hard. His identity is known, and in such cases, money plays against you. I replayed Alice's conversation with Amir in my head and suddenly realized that the name Roma sounded familiar. I had heard it somewhere, but where? My memory, annoyingly, blocked those recollections, probably due to stress. It's fine. It'll calm down and remember everything. The important thing now is to regain control. Luckily, Liam agreed with me. We quickly returned to the pack. We called a secret meeting. Only the closest people so that the information wouldn't leak to others. No panicking or rumors. It's better if fewer people know that some rich psycho has decided to start a hunt for werewolves. We gathered in the office, me, Liam, and our old friends Twain and Corey. We had been through a lot together, and they were the only ones we could trust with our lives. So Liam began, pacing from the desk to the window and back. The situation isn't the best. 2 of ours have gone missing. Liam and I are certain they were taken by Amir Zahor, a billionaire and casino owner. And if it was just a kidnapping, I couldn't sit still. Thoughts of Trey and Roger were tormenting me. We don't know why he did this or what's on this bastard's mind. We need to be ready for anything. Liam stopped by the window, leaned against the sill, and crossed his arms. He was silent. His thoughts were far away, and I knew that right now his mind was consumed with only one thing: Alice. He was worried about her, and I felt his emotions overwhelm me. A strange feeling gnawed at me. Could it be that my ex-girlfriend is Liam's fate? And what about our bond? But no, that's not important now. We need to increase security. No one should approach the pack. My brother finally spoke, breaking from his thoughts. Twain, you're in charge of the pack's security now. Corey will help you. I walked over to Liam and looked him in the eyes. His gaze was heavy and resolute. I understood that my brother was prepared to go to extreme measures. You understand that there will be sacrifices. This is war. He clenched his teeth. The tension in his jaw was so strong it seemed like he would break them. His jaw muscles were sharply defined on his cheekbones. Twain, Theos, right? Liam said, turning to his friend. This is war. No one should enter the pack's territory. If necessary, kill. I slapped my brother on the shoulder, supporting him. The main thing was that he understood there was no other way. The enemy needs to know who they're dealing with and fear us. Understood, Twain replied. The enemy won't make it out alive. They left, and we stayed behind. Remember, Dad had a contact in law enforcement, Liam said, sitting at the table, seemingly deep in thought. I think his name was Andrei Vikulov. I think he can help us find Amir's address. Suddenly, the air smelled like flowers, and I froze. Something was wrong. We weren't alone. He'll be right back, but you find Dad's notebook. It should definitely have his number, I told Liam and rushed out. The scent led me outside. I opened the door and saw Lotta standing by the house. What are you doing here? I growled, grabbing her by the arm. Didn't they tell you that eavesdropping is bad? I wasn't eavesdropping, she protested, pulling back slightly. I just saw Corey and Twain leaving your house. They were clearly worried. What's going on, Theo? Nothing, I said, trying to regain my composure, letting go of her arm. Don't lie to me. I'm not stupid. She tilted her head, clearly not believing me. I can feel something's wrong. Everything's fine, I answered roughly, feeling like every moment with her was wasting precious time. At some point, I even thought, who is she to me that I need to explain myself to her? I turned to go back inside, but Lotta jumped up, pressed her chest to my back, and wrapped her arms around my body. She whispered, if everything's fine, maybe we can relax a bit?
Come with me, darling.
That was the last thing I needed. Not only were there problems with Alice, but this girl was trying to trap me in her web. And right now, damn it, I blurted out as realization hit me. I shook off her hands. Everything suddenly became clear in my head. I remembered how Dana called the guy chasing her Roma, and that was the same name Alice had said when talking to Amir. Damn it, Roma is Amir's son. What, Theo? Lotta's suddenly worried voice broke through my thoughts, but I could no longer hear her. Leave me alone, I growled, not wanting to explain anything, and quickly rushed into the house. A cold wave of anger hit me. I will destroy this family, no matter the consequences. Liam, my voice thundered, if not across the whole pack, then certainly throughout the house. Without going into details, I simply said, Amir has a son. That same Roma, Dana's classmate. I'm going for her now, and you find the address. Then we'll pay a visit to the Zahors. All right, brother. Good luck. We'll stay in touch. On the way to Dana's house, I dialed her number. Luckily, she picked up right away. Theo. I could hear her smile even through the phone. I've missed you so much, darling, I said, feeling the anxiety squeeze my heart. Listen to me carefully. I'll be there soon to pick you up. Stay at home. Do you understand me?
Yes.
What's happened? Her voice immediately became tense. I didn't want to tell her about Roma, not knowing how she would take the news. Instead, I tried to calm her down. I'll explain everything, but for now, just trust me. Okay, I'll be waiting for you. Chapter 23.
Dana.
The bite that Theo left on my shoulder had almost completely healed. The surface had closed up, leaving only a barely noticeable scar. It's amazing. His saliva has such power that wounds heal within a few days. It's one of those miracles I wouldn't have understood before. But now, knowing that my boyfriend is a werewolf, I'm no longer surprised by such things. Recently, I've had to go through a lot, learn many things, and accept a lot. And despite all the trials, I don't regret meeting the Fane brothers. They're the best thing that's happened in my life. As I was lost in thought, I didn't notice how time had passed. Suddenly, Theo's call came through. His voice was tense, but he didn't explain, just asked me to trust him. He told me he was leaving soon and to wait for him. I felt a sense of worry, but decided not to panic ahead of time, hoping everything would be okay. Impatience burned inside me, and I walked around the apartment, trying to find something to do to calm myself. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. My heart raced, and I hurried to open the door. But it wasn't Theo standing there.
Roma?
I asked in surprise, looking at his smiling face. What are you doing here? Hey. His smile stretched to his ears. Can I come in? I was about to say I was waiting for Theo, but changed my mind. Remembering the recent incident in the park, I couldn't find any reason to refuse, so I let Roma into the apartment. Well, come in, I muttered, glancing at his face in confusion. What's this about? He took off his shoes and walked into the living room. You never invited me over, Roma noted, looking around the room. I was nearby, decided to drop by. You've got a cozy place here. Thanks, I replied with a hint of sadness. It's all my mom's. I haven't touched anything since she passed. Sorry, I didn't mean to bring it up. It's okay, you get used to it with time. I grew up without a mom too, Roma said, and there was a touch of bitterness in his voice. My father raised me. He gave me everything I needed, except for the most important thing, his time. My nanny was around more than he was, and now he's decided to fix that. Roma smirked. He spends every evening with me now, involving me in his business. He stepped closer and took my hands in his. I felt uncomfortable and tried to pull my hands away, but he held me tight. Dana, I want you to be with me. His voice sounded serious. You'll have everything you've ever dreamed of. Money, cars, jewelry. We'll open an animal shelter, a veterinary clinic, anything you want. You won't need anything. Just don't refuse me. I was taken aback and took a small step back. Roma, you're a good guy and I like you, but don't answer right now. Think about it. He released my hands and I exhaled with relief. Meanwhile, why don't you make us some tea? Roma changed the subject. Let's go to the kitchen, I replied with a strained smile. What would happen if Theo caught me with Roma drinking tea? The thought hit me, and I decided not to waste time worrying and just make the tea. While I was preparing it, Roma waited in the living room. But just as I called him, my phone rang. Seeing Theo's name on the screen, I couldn't hide my concern. "Yes," I said, barely keeping my voice steady. "Who's that?" Roma asked, and I barely held myself back from snapping at him. "Theo really does have great hearing. You're not alone?" He growled in a dissatisfied tone through the phone. Roma came over. I lied automatically. He brought my notes. Not only did Theo almost strangle Roma out of jealousy in the park, but I was also scared to imagine how he would react to this meeting. "Be careful with him," Theo said, and his words made me tense up. "He seems to be the son of the man who kidnapped our guys." "You hear me?" Yeah, I hear you. I got it." I looked at Roma, trying to hide my anxiety. "Tell me, is his last name Zahor?" I asked, furrowing my brow slightly. "Yes," Roma confirmed, and I felt everything inside me tighten. Damn it. I knew this would happen. "Wait for me, I'm almost there."
Don't go anywhere.
"If this idiot lays a finger on you, I'll destroy him." Theo's voice was so serious and menacing that I knew he wasn't joking and would really do what he said. After hanging up, I sat down at the table across from Roma and carefully dropped 2 sugar cubes into my cup. While stirring the tea, I noticed that Roma was once again typing something on his phone. Was that him, the handsome guy? He smirked, not taking his eyes off the screen. "Yes," I replied, trying to hide my unease. Theos' words left me feeling uneasy inside. How could it be that Roma was the son of the man who caused the pack so much trouble? What did he say when he found out I was here? Roma continued to probe. "Nothing." I tried to stay calm. "Nothing at all?" He leaned forward, as though scrutinizing me. "Nothing," I repeated and, as indifferently as I could, took a sip of my tea. "Interesting." Roma smirked, looking deep into my eyes. What is he trying to find out? Is he jealous? Or does he want something else? A lot of questions were swirling in my head, but above all, I just wanted Theo to come as soon as possible and for Roma to leave. We sat in silence for a few minutes, sipping our tea, but then he broke the quiet again. "Do you love him?" "Who?" I was confused, not understanding what he meant. "Your guy," he pointed to the air, as if referring to Theo. "What did he tell you?" I frowned, still unsure of what he was getting at. "Why did he call?" Roma's voice took on a strange, metallic edge that I hadn't heard before. My anxiety grew. This wasn't the Roma I knew, kind, sweet, and polite. Now, he seemed like someone completely different, like a stranger standing in front of me. "Don't you think it's between Theo and me?" I tried to defend myself, feeling like the conversation was taking a dangerous turn.
Tell who?
"So, what do you see in him? He won't be able to give you anything. Maybe some rough sex in the back of his cheap pickup truck." His words hit like a blow, and I felt the blood rush to my head. I opened my mouth to protest, but he kept going, not allowing me to say a word. "Or, do you like sleeping with werewolves?" Those words sent a chill through me. How dare he? And how does he know about wolves? From his sick father? Of course, who would have doubted it? This is the kind of dirty work he's been involved in. How could I not have noticed who he really was? I stood up abruptly to kick him out of the apartment, but as soon as I tried to take a step, I felt weak. My legs turned to jelly, and a fog clouded my vision. I grabbed the back of the chair to keep myself from falling and tried to steady myself, but it was no use. My eyelids felt like they were filled with lead. "What's happening to me?" I asked in fear, feeling the world around me blur. "It's the sleeping pills you drank," Roma said calmly. I looked down at my cup and understood everything. It seemed that while I was talking to Theo, Roma had added something to my tea. "You promised you'd come over to see me, and promises must be kept." His tone became soft, but menacing. "Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you if you're a good girl." "No, this isn't sleeping pills. It's just terror that has paralyzed my entire body." I couldn't move. How could I not have noticed who he really was? Theo is coming soon.
He's going to kill you.
So you better run. I tried to warn him, but my words sounded weak and helpless. Roma laughed, and that laugh cut through my ears. Your werewolf won't save you. And by the way, he'll have big problems if he shows up here. You don't know, but my father is obsessed with werewolves. Every billionaire has their quirks. He even opened a lab, hired scientists to work on all sorts of things for him. Roma took a small package out of his pocket and unwrapped it. So, when your Theo walks into the apartment, he'll be in for a surprise. This is a candle with wolf aconite and rowan. There are a few other substances, but that's not important. The point is that as soon as he inhales the scent, his beastly nature will weaken, and he'll fall asleep. But I think by the time he gets here, you and I will already be long gone. So you can say goodbye to your wolf. Soon he'll be my father's property. And what he does with him, even I don't know. But if I were you, I'd start worrying now. Roma set the candle in my cup and flicked a lighter. I couldn't fight the sudden dizziness and closed my eyes. Feeling my body lose all strength, I lost control, and darkness enveloped me completely. Chapter 24.
Theo.
Roma's voice on the phone made me grip the steering wheel so tightly that my fingers turned white from the pressure. I could feel my blood boiling in my veins, and rage began to rise with such force that it felt like it was about to explode. What the hell is that little bastard doing in her apartment? Yeah, sure, he brought notes. Who the hell would believe that nonsense? I slammed the gas pedal all the way down, silently praying to all the gods that I would make it in time. But my prayers went unanswered, even though I always thought religion was complete bullshit. Bursting into the apartment, I found that she was gone.
Shit.
A dull pain gripped my chest. The wolf inside me was thrashing in fury, trying to break free to exact its vengeance. Pressing my palms against the table, I promised myself I would find them and rip those bastards apart, giving the wolf a chance to deal with them. And he wouldn't be gentle. Suddenly, a scent hit my nostrils, pulling me out of my thoughts. What the hell? I sniffed the air, and realizing what the stench was, it was already too late. My legs gave way, and my consciousness started to slip. I woke up in a completely different place. A throbbing pain pulsed in my head, and my eyelids wouldn't open. Rising from the cold floor, I shook my head, trying to pull myself together. Where the hell am I? Grabbing the bars of a cage, I futilely tried to pull them apart. They were so strong that no matter how much I tried, nothing worked. But I didn't give up, continuing to struggle with the unyielding metal. Theo, a whisper came. Don't waste your strength. It won't help. The metal is too strong.
Liam?
I looked around and realized my brother was in a cage just like mine, about 30 feet away. What are you doing here? My voice boomed, echoing off the stone walls. It was hard to believe that the two of us, idiots, had walked into the trap of some little man. What is this place? I looked around, trying to assess our chances. The place looked like a mini bullfighting arena with round rings and pens for the bulls. There were 6 cells. If I understood correctly, Trey and Roger were somewhere here. Who were the other 2? I think I'm starting to figure it out.
This psycho wants to set up survival fights.
The desire to rip these bastards' eyes out intensified. As soon as I get out of here, and I will get out, they'll both be dead. I have no idea where we are, Liam replied. And how did you get into this mess? I asked, genuinely surprised. I didn't get to do anything. People in black jeeps showed up, tossed in gas grenades. We all passed out. You know what surprised me? They came right after the patrol, as if they knew when we'd be here. That confirms there's a traitor. Someone is leaking information. But who and why? Whoever it is, they won't live. I growled, trying to pull the bars apart. And Dana? Liam asked. I didn't make it. Zahor took her. I'll rip his head off as soon as I see him." My growl was met with applause. Soon, Amir Zahor appeared before me, accompanied by a guard holding a bag of meat. Beef by the looks of it. I bared my teeth, sending him a look full of hatred. He'll pay for all of this. Right now, I was locked up, but I knew the time would come and we would escape. And then, but my fantasies were interrupted. "Is this who Alice pictured in bed while I was fucking her?" Amir began. "You're the Theo Fane that she protected so much? The one she endured torture for? She really loved you. I'm a little envious." His words struck a painful blow to my soul. The wolf inside me surged in rage, and a growl escaped. Amir recoiled, his eyes widening in surprise.
Wow,
he exclaimed. "Impressive. I guess it wasn't a waste of time and money to search and develop all this. Who sold out her pack?" I growled, my rage intensifying. If it weren't for the traitor, Amir wouldn't have been able to trap us. The corpse of that little man would have been eaten by hyenas long ago. I already knew that as soon as I dealt with Amir and his insane family, I would track down the traitor. I hope Alice isn't involved, otherwise there's no forgiveness for her. "Why do you want my trump cards?" Amir sneered, looking at me with contempt. "Patience. You'll find out in due time. But for now, let's have something to eat. You never know when you'll get another chance to eat." Zahor's guard walked around the perimeter, tossing pieces of meat into each cage. When it was my turn, I seized the moment, grabbing his arm and sharply pulling him toward me. All I could think about at that moment was how to escape and get my revenge. "Open the cages now, or I'll rip his heart out," I commanded, holding him tightly. "Do you really think I'll abandon my plans for a single miserable life?" Amir said, ignoring my threats, and laughed. "I'm not joking." I growled angrily and, with effort, broke the guard's arm. The guard screamed in pain, but Amir remained unmoved, only slightly contorting his face at the sound of breaking bones. This was our difference. The wolf would tear anyone apart for his pack, while a human would always think only about his own benefit. "Don't waste your strength, Theo. This won't affect me." "Fine. Then maybe this will awaken even a little bit of compassion in you." With my free hand, I punched through the guard's ribcage and tore out his heart. Leaving the lifeless body behind, I threw the hot organ at Amir's feet and said with cold determination, "Your son is destined for the same fate." Zahor looked at the dead heart with a disgusted glance, and without losing his cheerfulness, said, "Wow, you really have potential. I think you have a good chance of winning the tournament. Well, I won't bother you anymore.
See you soon."
When that vile scum left, I wearily crossed my arms over my chest and leaned against the wall. Liam, noticing I had slipped into thought, called out to me, "Theo, what do you think these shackles are for?" I finally noticed the bracelets on both of my wrists, dull metal, tightly fastened around them.
No idea.
But that's not important right now. Got any ideas on how to get out of here?
No.
But I suggest we wait for the tournament to begin. Maybe when they release us into the ring, we'll have a chance to break free. All right, we'll wait. I agreed. That was probably the most reasonable decision. What else is there to do? The wait was unbearable. It stretched on like chewing gum, pulling each nerve to its limit. I couldn't say exactly how much time had passed since Amir left, but it felt like at least 10 hours. The only thought that didn't leave my mind was, today, Amir Zahor will die. Chapter 25.
Dana.
I opened my eyes and felt my heart constrict with unfamiliarity. The room I found myself in was foreign. Everything around me was alien and strange. The smell, the furniture, even the air felt different. Panic surged, pushing the breath from my chest. I couldn't understand how I ended up here, and that only made things worse. Faster and stronger than ever, I began to suffocate, trying to catch my breath like a fish out of water. My thoughts tangled into a thick, foggy haze. But gradually, memories began to resurface, one after another, piecing together into a clear, albeit terrifying, whole. With each memory, a chill ran through me because I understood. Roma had kidnapped me. Roma, the one I had considered a friend, I couldn't even imagine what he was capable of. The feeling of betrayal burned me, scorched me from the inside. Disappointment in people was always hard, but when it concerned those close to you, it was even worse. Your werewolf won't save you. Besides, he'll have big problems if he shows up here. Roma's words floated back into my memory, and my heart started to race, losing its rhythm. It can't be. Not this. I couldn't believe Theo had fallen into his trap. Instinctively, my legs moved, and I jumped off the bed, not thinking, just desperate to break free, to reach the exit. And suddenly, the bathroom door swung open, and a brunette appeared in the room. "You're awake. Thank God." She sighed in relief, hurrying to me. "You're Dana, right?" "Yes," I replied, still stunned. "But how do you know my name?" The girl looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. She looked a lot like me. Dark long hair, gray eyes, and about the same height. "I heard Roma talk about you," she explained, and then quickly asked, "Do you know the Fane brothers?" "Yes," I answered, looking at her with growing interest. But before I could ask anything, the stranger continued. "Well, then it's clear. I'm Melis." "Alice?" I repeated her name, and something seemed to snap inside me. My heart skipped a beat. If this girl knows the Fane brothers, then she is the Alice, Theo's ex-girlfriend. "Listen, you and Theo, are you connected?" Alice suddenly interrupted my thoughts. "What do you mean?" I asked, confused. "I'll explain. Sit down." She gently guided me to a luxurious sofa, upholstered in expensive fabric, and sat down next to me. When a werewolf finds his mate, he has to mark her, make her his. This allows them to communicate at a distance. "Telepathically?" I asked, bewildered. "Yes, exactly." "So, do you and Theo have that kind of connection?" "I don't know," I shrugged, not understanding what she wanted from me. "Well, that's clear. Theo, as always, he bit you and forgot to mention it." Alice smirked, but her look was meaningful. "Try to tune into him. Try to reach out mentally. It's not that hard. Just concentrate. Theo and Liam will definitely save us." "Save us, if I can manage to reach Theo." I tried, focused, thought about him, but nothing. No matter how hard I tried, it didn't work. No response. "It's okay." Alice smiled. "You'll try again. The important thing is not to panic. We'll get out of here, no matter how difficult it is. With the Fane brothers or without them. But first, we need to figure out how to open this door. I know every corner of this place, and if we can get out, I'll lead us." "Are you sure?" I asked, although something inside me suggested she wasn't just saying this.
Yes.
"I know this house," she replied, and there was a trace of regret in her voice. The only thing unlucky was meeting Amir on the way. "Amir?" I asked in surprise, but Alice just sighed. "You've probably already heard about him." Her voice became slightly rougher.
No.
"Theo never mentioned you," I admitted. "Really?" Alice pursed her lips, as if trying to suppress some emotion. "I understand him, really. He thought I didn't love him anymore. Isn't that true?" I felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. My breath caught in my chest. Alice fell silent. She was silent for a long time, as if deliberately drawing out the pause, relishing in my tension. The silence turned me inside out. With each passing moment, it became more unbearable. My breath hitched. My palms were covered in sweat. What if she still loves Theo? And him? Maybe he would want to go back to her? Finally, her voice broke me out of these dark thoughts. "When I left for Amir, I still loved Theo. Honestly, I hoped to get him back. I thought he was waiting for me too. I couldn't even imagine that he had someone else. With werewolves, it's different. If they find their mate, they're devoted to them forever. She licked her lips as if the memories caused her pain. I didn't know Theo had fallen into a coma. I didn't know that our connection would break because of it. Without the connection, he could meet someone else. And that's what happened. And now, do you still love him? I asked the question and immediately feared its consequences. Alice paused for a moment, then responded as if trying to avoid a direct answer. I understand what you're thinking. Her expression turned serious, and she spoke with a slight smile, avoiding the answer. Is it because of that kiss with Theo, right? I couldn't answer right away. I just lowered my eyes to the floor, unable to bear her gaze. I want you to know the truth, she continued, slightly embarrassed but confident. Before that happened, Theo called me by your name. He was so obsessed with you that he mistook me for you.
And
I just decided to use the situation to figure out what I really felt. And you know what I realized? I didn't feel anything. All those feelings faded, and I can't even remember when I stopped loving him. Maybe it was when I realized Liam was noticing me. He always stood up for me, and I just couldn't ignore his care. So, you love Liam? I asked, though I already had an intuitive sense of the answer. I don't know. It's still something I need to figure out, she answered. But for now, let's try again. Try to focus. Maybe this time you'll be able to reach Theo. I closed my eyes and concentrated. Pushing aside all thoughts, I tried once more to reach Theo. Theo, can you hear me? Please answer. Nothing. I opened my eyes and sighed in despair. Nothing, I whispered, feeling like a failure. Alice tried to encourage me, aiming to restore my confidence. Don't worry, you'll manage. You can do it. But before I could try again, the door swung open, and a large man entered the room. With a smirk, he said, "Let's go, babe." He took Alice away, leaving me in confusion and panic. Where had they taken her? What were they going to do to her? My heart was pounding wildly, and my thoughts were in turmoil. I tried to reach out to Theo again, but it felt like I hit an invisible wall. When Roma appeared in the doorway, my attempts vanished. "Hello," he said with a friendly smile, as if everything was normal and we were still friends. "I'm glad you're awake. I hope you forgive me for taking things into my own hands, but you promised you'd visit my house one day, and promises must be kept." He approached me and tried to touch me, but I quickly stepped back, hiding my hands behind my back. "Don't touch me," I exclaimed, feeling irritation growing inside me. Every gesture, every word of his annoyed me, even his scent. Everything was infuriating. "Okay, as you wish," he relented. "I need some rest. Tomorrow will be a tough day." "What's happening tomorrow?" I couldn't stop myself from asking, hoping for some answers. He smiled but gave an evasive response. "You're so curious. Tomorrow. Everything will happen tomorrow. For now, you can take a bath. I'll bring you a robe." "I don't need anything from you," I scoffed, crossing my arms over my chest. When the door closed behind him, I returned to the window, feeling hurt and fear take hold of me. I need to keep trying. Over and over. Maybe Theo will hear me, or perhaps he already does. "Theo, can you hear me? Answer." I can't keep talking to myself. I feel like an idiot. "You're not an idiot," his voice echoed in my head. "Where are you, Dana? Is everything okay?" All the emotions I had been feeling suddenly disappeared.
It was so easy, so calm.
He's alive. He was alive. "Theo, I'm so glad to hear you. We're talking mentally." I couldn't contain my joy. "I'm sorry, I thought it was you, but it was Roma. He put something in the coffee." "Oh my God, are you okay? Did he hurt you?" I wish I could say everything's fine, but I can't. It seems like Liam and I are in trouble. Amir wants to set up some no-rules fights, but we'll get out of it. I don't know how, but we'll figure something out. Liam and I will find a way, and we'll definitely come for you. I'll save you, do you hear me? Fear gripped me, but I tried to keep it inside because I believed in Theo. He would save us. Not just me, you need to save, I added, feeling panic creeping back. Alice is here too. I know, Theo replied. Amir took her, but we'll get everyone out. Do you trust me? Yes, I answered, my voice steady. I trusted him. The anxiety didn't leave me, but I knew he wouldn't abandon us. I returned to the couch, feeling my mind wrapped in panic, sat down, trying to organize the thoughts that were spinning in my head like a swarm of bees. How should I act? I can't just lie down and pretend everything's fine, like I chose to be here. At that moment, the door opened again, and I immediately jumped up, feeling the air grow heavy, stifling. Here's your robe, Ramka said, walking over to me and handing me the clothing. His voice was even, but I caught the hidden sarcasm in it. Would you feel at home if you were kidnapped? I couldn't hold back, asking him directly. Let him put himself in my shoes. I understand your anger, he replied, but when all this is over, you'll thank me. Over what? I frowned, sensing something unsettling in his words. Nothing, he answered evasively. Go take a shower, relax. Relax? That's impossible. I'm not going, I replied, crossing my arms over my chest, showing clear dislike. I threw the robe in his direction, almost stomping my foot like a little upset girl. Resentment and anger ignited a fire in my chest. Not going? Ramka smirked and tossed the robe aside, stepping closer to me. His gaze remained hard and insistent. I stepped back, trying not to get closer to him. If you don't want to take a shower, that's your business. But you'll have to tolerate me. Do you know what I do to rebellious girls like you? He almost hissed those words, dangerous sparks dancing in his eyes. I swallowed, feeling a chill inside. It seemed I had just made a mistake by answering him. I should have stayed silent. Ramka didn't stop. He kept coming forward. When I bumped into the windowsill, panic overtook me, and I felt my breath quicken. He was too close. I could feel his breath on my face, and my heart pounded wildly. His eyes held cold determination, and a cynical smile played on his lips. He reached for my hair, weaving his fingers into the strands. I instinctively turned away, feeling a cold shiver run down my skin. I've been too patient with you. His voice was quiet but authoritative. Should have been assertive from the start, like with the others. But it's not too late to change. Go on, take it off. What? My voice cracked. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My heart sank. I felt a sticky terror seize me. My arms and legs grew heavy, and I clung to the windowsill, trying to find support. I said, "Take it off," he repeated calmly, and I felt tears welling up. "Is this a joke?" I asked, my voice trembling. "I'm not joking," he replied, his words hard as a blow. "I don't want to use force, so it'll be better if you take it off yourself. I want to see your body." "This won't happen." I barely managed to speak, holding back tears and fear. At that moment, Ramka reached out and tugged the hem of my top, pulling the fabric. I felt something snap inside me, and it became clear that there was no going back. I let go of the windowsill and pushed him away from my chest as hard as I could. "Never touch me again." My voice quivered, but I was determined. He staggered a bit, but didn't step back. He stood still, like a rock. I met his gaze, trying not to show my fear. My breath was ragged, but I pressed my lips together and made sure not to show any emotion. "I'll do whatever I want, whenever I want." His words were a sentence. He grabbed my elbow and pulled me towards the couch. He shoved me, and I lost my balance, falling onto the soft seat. Ramka loomed over me and began exploring my body. "What are you doing?" I screamed, tears running down my cheeks. Let go. You can't. I curse myself for not growing my nails. Right now, they could have helped me in this fight. I fought back as best as I could, but his reaction was strange. My attempts seemed to have no effect, and instead, he seemed even more confident. That's when I decided to change tactics. Maybe if I stopped resisting, he would lose interest? I stopped fighting. What's wrong with you? Ramka pulled back, looking at me in surprise, ceasing to kiss my face. Don't like it? I wanted to scream, but I held back. Silently, I looked at him with tear-filled eyes, then turned my face away, feeling tears rising again. Soon, his fingers brushed my neck, and I involuntarily closed my eyes. The tears slid down my cheeks on their own. His hands, as though slowly exploring my skin, continued their journey across my shoulder, where the mark from Theo's bite still remained. He removed my top without saying a word, but suddenly, Ramka froze, eyeing me warily. What is this? His finger traced the scar. Why does it matter? I tried to remain calm, although my heart was racing. Why did you stop? Do what you were going to do. Is it him? His voice filled with rage as he leaned towards me again. Did he do this? Without waiting for an answer, he continued, He will pay for this. The guy abruptly pulled away from me, ran his fingers through his thick hair, and, unable to control his emotions, paced across the room. I stood up from the couch, tugged at my clothes, and quickly wiped the tears from my face. You see, I didn't want to hurt you. His voice was tense, unable to calm down from the fury.
But now...
He paused again, heated. Now you'll see it all.
What?
I flinched, feeling my heart stop in my chest. You'll see how your precious werewolf dies. His words pierced me, and before I could react, he left the room. I stayed sitting, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Then, weakly, I collapsed onto the couch and simply broke down in tears. Chapter 26.
Dana.
I was awakened by a soft, almost gentle male voice. Someone's hands were carefully running through my hair. Opening my eyes, I realized it was Ramka, and it seemed like I had fallen asleep on the couch last night. What happened? I asked, sitting up, trying to pull away and make it clear that his touch was making me uncomfortable. We need to go somewhere, he said. But first, get yourself together, take a shower. I'll wait here. I'm not going anywhere with you, I replied, bristling, and looked out the window. The dim morning light was coming through the window, filling the room with a soft glow. If you want to see your werewolf, then let's go. His voice turned hard as he pointed to the bathroom. My insides tightened under the weight of his gaze, but I didn't want to argue. If he was really going to take me to Theo, I would do whatever it took to see him. After taking a shower and getting dressed, I left the bathroom. Well then, Ramka's lips stretched into a grin. Let's go. I wasn't particularly interested in where he was taking me. I walked beside him silently, feeling the tension build inside. I kept thinking about meeting Theo and hoping that he had a plan for our escape. But as it turned out, things were not as I expected. We were led outside and put into a car. Ramka sat beside me, handing the wheel over to the driver. Where are we going? I finally decided to ask. To the casino, he answered, casually leaning back in his seat. Is Theo there? Yeah, he smirked. You'll see him soon. I felt the anxiety growing inside me. His smirk was too cold and wicked, something about it I didn't like at all. Shivers ran down my skin, and a sense of unease crept into my chest. I didn't like any of this. Not at all. And Alice? I asked, trying to distract myself from my thoughts. Don't worry about her. She's with her father. You'll see her soon, too. I sat there, nervously biting my lip, my unease not letting go. I tried to reach Theo, but it didn't work. Ramka's words from yesterday came back to my mind, and my heart squeezed with pain. But I tried to keep my composure, not letting him see that his manipulations were affecting me. Maybe someone would call me naive, but I believed that in the end, good would triumph over evil. We would escape this hell. The car stopped, and I tensed up, not knowing what to expect.
Teo.
I didn't close my eyes for a second. How could I sleep when my mate was in danger? I felt her like my own soul. Her fear, anxiety, despair, it was all mine. My beast was writhing with helplessness, whimpering as if it was ready to break free and tear the enemy apart. At some point, the emotions overwhelmed me, and I couldn't take it anymore. I jumped up, grabbed the steel bars of the cage, and roared. It didn't bring relief, only more pain. Only the death of Zakurov would bring me satisfaction. Theo, my brother's voice rang out. Save your fury for the enemy. Today it will all end.
He was right.
I needed to collect myself and not waste my strength. I tried to calm down, and gradually my breathing returned to normal. But when the scent of humans filled the air, anger returned with renewed force. The wolf inside me woke up again, its thirst for revenge insatiable. I imagined him tearing Zakurov's throat out, and that thought filled me with strength. Soon, the room was filled with people. If my instincts weren't failing me, Zakar decided to put on a show for the public and invited spectators. Well, if it's fun they want, let them have it. And then, Zakar himself entered the arena, but not alone. Fury overtook me completely when I saw that scumbag pressing Alice to his side. Damn, what must Liam be feeling now? He just found his mate, just like I did. I hoped that the stupid son of a bitch Zakar wouldn't think of bringing Dana here, to this den of idiots. Just as I thought this, I smelled her scent. The wolf inside me snarled, sensing its prey among these bastards. My girl was here. Oh, how I longed to get back at these assholes. Did you know that werewolves are not just a myth? Zakar said, taking the microphone. They exist, and today I'll prove it to you. The crowd of fat cats, about 10 of them, started murmuring, and a commotion rose. I only sneered, a gathering of stupid idiots who didn't even suspect what awaited them. I could feel the fury coursing through my nerves, draining the air from my lungs. Not only did Amir take our girls, but now he was going to reveal the secret to these spectacle-hungry, depraved scumbags. I grabbed the thick bars of the cage again, growling, cursing Zakar. I saw Liam doing the same, realizing that the situation was spiraling out of control. But what could he do, sitting in a cage? And then, my gaze met Dana's, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She was sitting in the third row next to Ramka Zakar, completely curled up in fear. But she wasn't afraid for herself. Now, I declare the tournament open. Amir continued, ignoring our gazes. You've never seen anything like this. It will be an unforgettable spectacle. Fights to the death. One of us will remain alive. The werewolf who will take an honored place in my collection. You have no idea what's coming for you, bastard. I growled, gripping the bars with such force that for a moment it seemed like they might break under my pressure. Zakar just smirked, confident of his victory. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to my Alice. If it weren't for her, none of this would be happening. He shamelessly pressed her to himself, blatantly showing off his power. Alice tensed up, agony reflected on her face. Today, you will witness 4 thrilling fights. The last one, the final, for the right to become a valuable exhibit in my collection. I've spent a lot of time and effort organizing this event, and I hope you enjoy it. So, let's begin. The crowd erupted into applause, and Amir and Alice left the arena. I couldn't tear my gaze away from that bastard. He seated Liam's mate next to Dana and stood beside them, not letting go of the microphone. The girls exchanged frightened glances, and the wolf inside me roared again. As soon as they left, Zocker pulled a small device resembling a remote from his expensive pants pocket and pressed a button. A huge cage began to slowly descend from above. As I understood, this was insurance. When the cage completely covered the arena, he pressed the button again, and the grid on Liam's cage rose, allowing him to step into the battlefield. All I need is to get to that remote. I wonder who he's going to release to fight Liam? I could sense other wolves, but I couldn't tell who they were. And why hadn't they contacted us? Without hesitation, Liam ran into the arena and, gripping the cage, roared, "Let the girls go, you bastard. Let's settle this one-on-one. Don't involve them in your games." Meanwhile, the second grid lifted, but the wolf didn't rush to step out. And then I saw Trey. I was tormented by the question, why had he and the others stayed silent while we were imprisoned? They'd probably been drugged, just like me and Liam. But since my brother and I were alpha wolves, it didn't affect us. Zocker hadn't accounted for that when creating his miracle drug. Maybe he would make another mistake, and I wouldn't miss my chance. Before you, there are 2 werewolves, Amir continued, relishing every word. Only one will remain alive. Gentlemen, let's place our bets. Bets? Has he completely lost it?
Scum.
Hatred filled every fiber of my being. Who the hell does this ghoul think we are? Round 1. Liam versus Trey. A gong sounded. Well, just like in the textbook, arena, gong. The only thing missing was a girl in a short skirt holding a sign. But nothing was happening. The guys stood there like statues, unwilling to take a single step. What eaten your fill? I wanted to ask Zocker. Did he think we would be his puppets? Only then did I realize why he needed our girls.
Damn.
I'm sitting in this cage like a fool, and I can't help Dana. Helplessness was eating me up inside. If you think we're going to fight each other, you're deeply mistaken, Amir Zocker. Liam shouted. You've made a huge mistake. You're mistaken if you think I don't have any tricks up my sleeve. Ladies and gentlemen, the bastard mocked, and I, never taking my eyes off him, was ready to kill him with a single glare. I draw your attention to the bracelets on your wrists. They're made of a durable alloy, and I doubt any of you will be able to break them. If anyone refuses to fight, there will be consequences. Amir raised his hand with the remote and pressed a button. At that moment, an electric shock shot through Liam's body. I couldn't hold back, and a guttural roar erupted from my chest. Liam collapsed to the side, curling his legs to his stomach, his body twitching violently. Trey rushed toward him.
Trey, stop.
I shouted, clenching my fingers around the bars. Don't touch him. My chest was heaving, and rage boiled inside me like lethal poison. When everything finally calmed down and Liam regained some composure, Zocker sneered. Well, who else wants to refuse to fight? You won't make us fight, Trey exclaimed, raising his hands. I'd rather die than go against my alpha. You can electrocute me 100 times, but I won't change my decision. At that moment, I felt a surge of pride for my friend. Wolves never hesitate when it comes to protecting their alpha. The thought that one of our own dared to betray us didn't make sense. But I'll deal with that once I get out of here. Well said. Zocker smirked. But I'm giving you one last chance. We won't fight, Liam declared firmly. We won't give you the honor. Pack up your toys and shut this circus down. His smile promised nothing good, and I felt his hand rise again, holding the remote. I'm sorry, but the choice is yours. Trey was hit with another powerful electric shock, but he didn't break. Clenching his fists, he continued to stand his ground, not allowing himself to give in, waiting for the next strike. His body shook, he growled in pain and collapsed to his knees. I knew there was nothing more I could do, so I just sat there, gritting my teeth until they almost cracked. Stop this, Liam demanded, but Zocker kept bombarding him with electric shocks. Trey clenched his teeth, but with each passing moment, His heartbeat slowed. I saw the life draining from him, and I felt utterly helpless. When his heart finally stopped, my wolf surrendered in silence. I dropped to my knees, leaning helplessly against the bars. Inside, everything tore apart, leaving only a dull pain and emptiness. There's only one winner. That's the rule, Zocker said, showing no sign of regret. Don't make me decide for you next time. As soon as the gong sounded and Zocker announced the second round, I jumped to my feet in fury and grabbed the bars. Taubashu. Zocker's pleased voice rang out, and the barrier separating me from the arena lifted. Of course, I stepped out. There was no need to think. I wouldn't let this scum hurt Dana. And for Trey's death, he would pay according to the laws of the pack. I felt the hostile glares on me, and inside my soul, there was only one desire: to take revenge on each of these little men sitting in the audience. What are we going to do, Theo? I mentally asked the beta, standing in the center of the makeshift ring. What they want is a fight. We have no choice, I replied, but I knew, despite all our efforts, one of us would die. However, at least the fight would buy us some time. I made the first move, knowing Roger wouldn't dare strike first. My fist hit his jaw with all my might, almost breaking the bone. The crowd erupted in eager noise. Some whistled, others clapped. Bastards. Come on, Roger, hit me. I mentally urged him. We'll stall for as long as we can. Consider this a training session. The beta lunged forward, and I placed my chest under his punch, bending in half from the powerful blow to my stomach. I coughed. Again, I growled in my mind. Make me bleed. With my body straightened, I purposely let him land a right hook. Come on, guys, Amir shouted, gleefully watching. Show us what you've got. And in that moment, all the barriers holding me back collapsed, and, unable to control my rage any longer, I growled. We're not your friends, you scum. My voice became deep and hoarse, and I felt my fangs stretch as my nails transformed into claws. A bunch of rich idiots. Scum. Cluttering up this world with your existence. I spat blood and continued. You'll all die. I'll gladly slit your throats when I get out of here. And I will get out, believe me. My voice turned as firm as granite. Anger filled me like a flow of lava, trying to awaken my deepest instincts. My beast growled and bared its teeth inside, begging me to let it out. It craved revenge, and I shared its desire. How dare these people think they can decide whose life matters and whose doesn't? They are so pathetic and worthless. But I won't jump through their little games. A magnificent speech, Amir mocked. But if you don't continue, I'll have to declare one of you the loser. I didn't know how to avoid both mine and Roger's death. We started again, rolling up our sleeves and continuing to buy time. Thankfully, our wounds were about to heal. We dealt powerful blows, wiped blood off our faces, and continued until at one point, Amir intervened. Stop, he shouted. Did he get bored? He realized the fight wouldn't end until he interfered. Turn around, he ordered. It's time for everyone to see werewolves up close. We're not going to, I snarled, but the beast inside me didn't object to taking control of the situation. Through the metal bars, I looked at Zocker, and my gaze was full of rage, as if I were about to punch a hole in his head. I anticipated this, so I've taken care of everything. His disgusting smile twisted, and he pressed a button on the remote. At that moment, I felt a sharp sting in my wrists, and in the next second, my body started to grow fur. My bones cracked and reshaped, taking the necessary form. My clothes began to tear at the seams. What the hell is happening? I growled, feeling the pain I hadn't felt during a transformation in a long time. Apparently, the resistance was too strong, and now everything was happening as if it were my first time. My face elongated, gaining a predatory look, My teeth lengthened, and my arms and legs turned into strong paws. I couldn't stop the transformation, no matter how hard I tried. The beast was taking over. However, the bracelets on my wrists refused to come off. Once fully transformed, I looked at the black wolf across from me, baring my teeth, and lunged at the cage. With my gaze, I tore through the air, glaring at the fat cats in the audience. They jumped to their feet, not believing their eyes. I felt the power surging through me, and I was more certain of our victory than ever. Chapter 27.
Dana.
I was sitting next to Romka, and my eyes couldn't tear away from the scene in the arena where, under the cage, they were forcing my Theo to fight one of their associates. It was unbearable, impossible to comprehend such cruelty. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I barely managed to hold back my sobs. I had seen Ymir kill Trey, and now I was terrified that Theo might be next. My heart tightened with fear, and I couldn't remain calm. My whole body was trembling, I nervously shifted, and my gaze kept trying to avoid the horror unfolding before me. But Romka wouldn't let me close my eyes. He grabbed my chin and forced me to look. "Look, darling, or I'll make your father send a powerful shock through his body. Do you want that?" His voice was quiet but insistent. "No, please don't." I barely managed to hold back tears, my lips trembling. My heart was torn to pieces, and inside I felt empty and cold. Of course, I didn't want Theo to suffer, but I couldn't escape this. Crossing my own principles, I watched as he, wanting to protect himself and all of us, intentionally hurt himself. With each blow, it became harder, and every moment became unbearably painful. I felt how the fear for his life scratched at me like sharp claws, and I couldn't do anything. An indescribable pain boiled inside me, but I couldn't stop him. When Theo shifted and his wolf finally broke free, I couldn't help but be scared. But what the men in the arena saw filled them with pure terror. They jumped to their feet, staring at the cage in shock, preparing to flee at any moment. The power emanating from the wolf was so overwhelming that it seemed like he was about to tear the metal bars apart. In that moment, I felt the alpha's energy enveloping me. The power radiating from Theo pulsed in the air, so strong that I felt it even on myself. "Fight, Theo. Don't give up." I tried to mentally encourage him. "Don't think of me. Do what you know." "Well then, gentlemen, are you ready to place your bets?" Ymir said with obvious satisfaction, his voice sounding like the sound of a coin falling. Interesting, isn't it? The anger that overwhelmed me was new and intense. I had never felt so angry as I did at that moment. Everything inside me burned. I wanted Romka's father to pay for this. This man was the embodiment of everything cruel and disgusting that one could imagine. I had never hurt even a fly, but now I was ready to make an exception. In this moment, I didn't care who he was or what he meant to me. There was something vile in him that provoked fury. My fists clenched by themselves when I thought about him. "Relax." Romka placed his palm on my clenched fist, trying to calm me. "This isn't even the most interesting part. Knowing my father, he's saving the best for the finale. How can you support him?" I whispered, unable to hide the contempt in my voice. "All he does is inhuman. These creatures aren't even human." Romka smirked, and his words shocked me like a jolt of electricity. "I thought you were the ideal, and you—" I lowered my head, not knowing how to explain my pain. "Is that why you chose him?" Romka hissed angrily. "You can't control the heart," I sighed. "But I promise, if you stop all of this, I'll try to love you." I took a step toward him, determined for the final move. "Please, Romka." I took his hand in mine, looking into his dark eyes. "Ask your father to stop this fight." Silence stretched on for what felt like an eternity. I saw doubt in his gaze, but also hope. I believed that he could influence his father. I was ready to do anything to keep Theo safe. I was willing to sacrifice myself if it would save him. Romka hesitated for a moment, but then quietly kissed my palm and walked over to his father. They whispered something, but it only took a few minutes before Romka returned. "I'm sorry." His words sounded with pain, and his shoulders were slumped. "I did everything I could. Ladies and gentlemen, werewolves." Amir's voice came through the microphone. "If you think I have no heart, you're wrong. I have compassion. Therefore," he paused, giving everyone time to process what he had said, then continued, "If you continue to fight, everyone will stay alive." I sighed with relief. It wasn't what I had expected, but at least no one else would die.
Theo.
I was growling, charging at the cage, feeling only one pain, the inability to end this nightmare right now. But Dana's voice, echoing in my head, was like a spark in the dark night sky, giving me strength. I could feel her support, and it was uplifting. My wings spread, ready for the final rush. "If you fight, everyone will stay alive," Zahor said calmly. A nice ultimatum, but my wolf couldn't stand being manipulated. My beta and I, baring our teeth, slowly circled the arena, waiting for the right moment to strike. However, to avoid a serious clash, I had to use a little trick. I jumped on Roger, threw his beast on its back, and growled as it tried to rise. "Good job, Theo," Zahor said, approving of my maneuver. "Clever move, but..." I jumped off Roger, shoved him aside, and the beta, following my command, returned to the pen. I was preparing to speak with Zahor. "What will you say to this? Don't you think, bastard, that this has gone too far?" I spat, holding back my fury. "This is just the beginning, my friend," he said, playing with the microphone as if enjoying himself. "So, I announce a new fight."
Tell us all.
He made an intriguing pause. I was ready for anything, but if he planned to pit me against my brother, I swore I would leave no trace of him alive. Rage boiled inside me, pulsing in my blood, and images of revenge filled my mind. But when I heard the name of the one I would have to fight, I nearly exploded. "Lada," Zahor drawled, as if anticipating the effect. "Lada and me? Was he crazy?" One of the cages began to rise, revealing the fighters. "I won't fight a she-wolf," I declared, unable to hide my outrage. "This is not a fair match. She's doomed. You will fight," Zahor insisted, his voice becoming harsh. "I want to see a fight, or have you forgotten what I can do to you or her? Let me remind you." At that moment, I felt a painful jolt of electricity course through my body. Darkness clouded my vision, my legs buckled, but I managed to stay on my feet. "You bastard," I growled, gritting my teeth. I bent over, trying to catch my breath, feeling my heart pounding wildly. "Theo," Lada called out anxiously. I growled, not letting her approach or touch me. "I wonder, after what I tell you, will you change your mind?" Amir's arrogant voice continued, playing its game. "Just think about it, Theo." "Why Lada? It's so obvious. She's your spy." My muscles tensed. I struggled to stay in place, clenching my fists as I ran through the facts in my mind. Lada? It couldn't be. But remembering how I caught her by the door when the guys and I were discussing how to kill Zahor, I realized everything was starting to make sense. A pounding pain throbbed in my temples, and instead of blood, rage flowed through my veins. The situation had completely thrown me off balance. I could no longer hold back the fury raging inside me, and with a roar, I jumped at Lada, grabbed her by the neck. "Theo, no, don't listen to him," she gasped. "He just wants to provoke you. Don't give in." "Shut up," I snarled, unable to control my desire to destroy her right then. But not now. I needed to understand why she had betrayed us, what had driven her to this. I forcefully threw her aside and snapped. "Why?" "Theo, I'm sorry," She begged, trying to rise, but I stepped on her ribcage, pressing her to the floor, not letting her escape my gaze, waiting for an explanation. She dug her claws into my shin, trying to relieve the pressure, but I didn't care about her suffering at all. I didn't even care that I was completely naked while a crowd of rich idiots watched us. She couldn't find the words. You promised, you son of a bitch. She suddenly shouted, glaring at Emir through the cage. You didn't listen to me properly, girl, he said with a cold smile. We talked about me not touching you, but as for him, I can't vouch for that. Zahor shrugged, enjoying the moment. I'm waiting for an answer. I reminded her, pressing harder with my foot. Why did you betray your pack? Rage continued to boil inside me. I fought with all my strength to hold back the wolf, who demanded that I destroy this creature right now. But no, it wasn't the time. I wanted to set up Alice. Lotta finally confessed. I wanted her to leave the pack. For you to kill that human bitch who came back to take you away from me. Her scream echoed through the hall, bouncing off the walls. I found Emir to take Alice, but he offered me a deal. He promised no one would get hurt if I agreed to cooperate. Out of revenge, you betrayed the pack? I couldn't believe my ears. You betrayed us, your family, to get rid of a rival who wasn't even a rival? Blood hummed in my ears, and my body trembled from the overwhelming emotions. Because of Lotta, my Dana was now in the hands of this pervert. Because of her, Trey was dead, and other pack members had suffered. The wolf growled violently, trying to break through my barriers. I'm ready to pay for everything. Her eyes were full of pleading and remorse. Someone else might have shown mercy.
But not me.
Traitors don't deserve forgiveness. We live by different rules, not like humans.
The hall was still, silent.
The spectators sat motionless, almost afraid to even move, mesmerized by what was happening. You have no right to ask for forgiveness. I roared, shifting my foot to the traitor's throat. You don't deserve mercy, bitch. My lungs burned with rage, blood pounding in my temples. My fingers clenched into fists, and my face burned with furious anger. It was time to end this show. I shifted into wolf form and, with a growl, lunged at Lotta, giving my beast full freedom of action. It mercilessly tore into her stomach, spilling her insides out. When her heart stopped forever, my wolf jumped off the body and bared its teeth, glaring at the spectators. These creatures didn't even understand what they were getting into. I noticed Dana's gaze, full of fear, real animal horror. Her eyes filled with tears, her mouth slightly open, and her lips trembling. I understood this was the first time she had seen something like this, and it was hard for her, but I couldn't allow her weakness. Understanding that Emir was unaware of Werewolf's ability to communicate mentally, I hoped for Dana's help. Dana, sweetie, listen to me carefully. I sent mentally, while my wolf kept growling at the others. Everything will be okay, do you hear me? She swallowed and nodded. You and Alice can save us. You need to take the remote from Emir and raise the cage. Do you understand? She nodded again, biting her lip. Just be careful. Don't take unnecessary risks. I won't forgive myself if anything happens to you. Okay, she whispered. I shifted back to human form and shouted. So, bastard, are you satisfied? You wanted blood, you got it. Now what? I spread my arms wide, not caring about my nakedness. Blood still felt on my face. The metallic taste hadn't gone away. Now, the final fight. Do you understand, Theo? This fight must happen. Brother versus brother. Then you must understand that we won't fight. We'd rather die than indulge your twisted whims.
Yeah? Zahor smirked.
And you haven't forgotten that I can hurt someone from your girls? Like Alice, for example. He yanked her by the arm, grabbed her by the hair, forcing her to look him in the eyes. She's so beautiful and young. her whole life ahead of her. I don't want to hurt her again. I'm afraid this time she won't recover. I heard the scrape of metal. Liam was trying to free himself. I could feel his anger burning my insides as though my heart had been ripped out. We will fight, my brother growled. Soon, his enraged wolf was standing in front of me. Well, let's give the girls time to grab the remote. Let's entertain the guests. I dragged Lotta's cooling body aside and shifted again. It's time to begin. Chapter 28.
Dana.
I had never seen a person killed in my life. The sight was so heavy that I barely managed to suppress a scream. My whole soul was engulfed in shock, and I couldn't move. I just stared into my wolf's eyes, silently praying that he would never have to kill his own again. Roma held me tightly, as if trying to offer support, but I shoved him with my elbow. Why would I need his support when the whole world was falling apart around me? While Theo and Liam distracted Amir by pretending to fight, I tried to find a moment to whisper to Alice about the remote. But how could I do that if Amir wouldn't let her go, and Roma was watching my every move? Fortunately, we were sitting near Alice, and I managed to get her attention by lightly kicking her under the seat. The moment she turned her head and looked at me, I rushed to give her an answer to that silent question. I whispered with my lips, "Remote," hoping she would understand. Alice furrowed her brow, and it seemed that it clicked because she nodded immediately. Now, all I had to do was make her task easier and get Roma out of here, so he wouldn't ruin everything. An idea popped into my head, but I wasn't sure if it would work. It was time to pull myself together and act. I didn't have the luxury of weakness. I turned resolutely to Roma. "Roma, please, let's leave here," I whispered. "I can't watch this anymore. It's awful. Don't you find it interesting? Don't you want to see how it ends?" He asked, genuinely surprised, as if I was supposed to enjoy this spectacle of my beloved man and his brother hurting each other. "No, I'm not interested. It's too cruel. I need to tell you something," I whispered, trying to hide my anxiety. "But not here. I've made a decision, and I want you to know about it." "Okay," Roma agreed. "Let's go." He took my hand and led me toward the exit. Fortunately, Amir and the other men were so absorbed in what was happening in the arena that they didn't notice our disappearance. But Alice, she looked our way. I winked and smiled, signaling that everything was okay. We went upstairs to the casino. Roma sat me down on the couch and, gently stroking my cheek, asked, "So, what did you want to talk about?" "Thank you for opening my eyes." All this, my voice trembled, but I tried not to let my emotions take over. Thinking about Theo was easier than thinking about myself. Tears involuntarily welled up in my eyes as I imagined how I could lose him forever. I didn't know how to start, and at the same time, I needed to buy some time. It's hard for me, you know? Theo, he's a monster. And I loved him. But now, I've made my decision. I nervously swallowed. "What did you decide?" Roma took my hand and looked into my eyes, clearly expecting an answer. His pupils dilated. He nervously licked his lips and leaned slightly forward. "Let's try. I want to give you a chance. It's easiest to deceive a person in love. They, like children, believe every word." "Really?" His face lit up with joy, brighter than the brightest star. He jumped up, grabbed my hand, and without giving me time to react, pulled me into his embrace. A shiver ran down my spine, and an unpleasant lump rose in my throat. Roma cupped my face in his hands and pulled me toward him. When his lips insistently touched mine, I closed my eyes, feeling his hot tongue push into my mouth. God, if we stopped right now, who knows what could have happened. Fortunately, the shouts from the fighting club organized by Roma's father distracted us. "What's going on there?" He frowned when he pulled away from me. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me along. "Theo." Everything went as I had planned. Dana led Roma away, and Alice, I don't know how she managed it. Grabbed the remote from Zahor and even managed to slap him in the face. He, of course, didn't expect such a turn and was momentarily stunned. These precious seconds became Alice's salvation. As she ran, she pressed all the buttons in a frantic hurry. The bars began to rise. Roger appeared with us in the arena and immediately transformed into a wolf. My heart was pounding like crazy, and my anxiety grew with each passing second. I kept an eye on Zahor, who was chasing Alice, weaving through the rows, and silently prayed to all the gods for help. Everything will be okay, brother. I mentally reassured Liam. His wolf was breathing heavily. His worries became mine, and our thoughts merged into one. We both wanted only one thing, for Alice to get out and for Zahor to be dead. Suddenly, pain pierced through me like a lightning strike. An electric shock. Liam's and Roger's wolves growled, echoing my beast's reaction. "Sorry," Alice whispered as she kept running and desperately pressing the buttons. The cage started to rise, opening a path to freedom. We recovered from the shock, but the tension didn't let go. It seemed like the cage was rising too slowly, as if deliberately dragging out the moment. Panic swept over the people when they realized the show was ending, and they tried to escape. But they were doomed. I had been waiting for this moment to leave someone alive. With indescribable rage, I tore through the spectator stands, ripping apart anyone who got in my way. I was drowning in blood and relishing the moment. The screams and pleas only fueled my animal instinct. I tore them apart without hesitation, tasting the blood. When it was over, I ran to find Dana. The scent of her body led me, and I came out of the hall directly onto Roma, who was pulling her along. "What the?" Roma's eyes widened when he saw me in wolf form. "How did you get out? Don't come any closer." This coward grabbed Dana's hand and hid behind her fragile body, keeping his palm on her neck. His fear fueled my fury. If he hurt her even a little, he would die. Although Zahor was already a goner, just like his bastard father, whom I hoped Liam had already dealt with. "Well," Roma shouted, clearly scared. "Come on, wolf. Try to kill me." "Well, you said it yourself." My wolf bared its teeth and began to move slowly toward him. The smell of fear mixed with the stench of his blood, and I couldn't stop. Every step was filled with rage, and an animal hunger churned in my stomach. "Come on, take the risk," Roma shrieked with hysterical laughter. It seemed his nerves had given way. I didn't know how to attack without hurting Dana, but I was sure I could think of something quickly. But before I could blink, my girl bit Roma on the arm that was around her neck, then slammed her elbow into his chest. She sprang to the side, and I immediately lunged at him, sinking my teeth into his neck, feeling his life draining away. Leaving his lifeless body, I shifted back to human form, wiped the blood from my lips, and embraced Dana. I let out a relieved sigh. "Sorry, you shouldn't have seen that." "It's okay," she said softly, in a subdued voice. "The important thing is that you're alive." Her words gave me strength and faith in a better outcome. "You need clothes." "I think Roma's jeans will fit," she said, burying her face in my chest. I lifted her face, seeing the tears that had caught her off guard. After all, this was her friend. She knew him. He was human. He was just like us.
Damn.
"It'll be okay, baby." I tried to comfort her. "This won't happen again. Let's go." "First, get dressed." She smiled bitterly through her tears. I asked her to turn away while I took Roma's jeans from his body. Once I was dressed, I suddenly heard a plaintive howl. My heart twisted. "It's Liam. I don't want to scare you, but something's happened to Alice." "It can't be," Dana gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. "Let's go." She grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the basement. "Maybe it's a false alarm." But no, the alarm was real. I felt my brother's pain, as if it were my own. Every nerve was stretched to the limit, and my insides ached with unbearable longing. I felt something was wrong with Alice, and I was gripped by terror. When Liam met us, holding Alice in his arms, all my fears were confirmed. I noticed the blood slowly seeping from the wound on the back of her neck. I cursed under my breath and rushed to my brother. "There's a couch. Let's lay her there." I gestured with my hand, trying not to give away the panic in my voice. As we helped him lay Alice down, I asked what had happened. She fought with the mirror, and he shoved her. Her heart was barely beating, slowing with every passing moment. I blamed myself, clutching my head, cursing myself and everything that had led to this. But what's the use? I had to act immediately, or she... I couldn't even comprehend what that meant. No, I won't let her go. Alice won't get away from me that easily. I pulled Dana toward me, imagining what I could lose. I jerked my emotions loose and growled in frustration. The wound is too serious. She needs to go to the hospital, but the ambulance won't make it in time, Dana said, and I could feel her heart tighten. Liam, is there anything we can do? I looked at my brother, tears rolling down his face, and didn't know how to help, how to ease his suffering. At that moment, an idea came to me, absurd, but possibly the only right one. Turn her, I suggested, my voice filled with determination. Liam shook his head. I can't do that. It's not supposed to be like this. Forget your principles for once. I shouted, repeating, do you want her to stay alive? Then turn her. Do it while she's still breathing. Liam kept hesitating, but realizing there was no other way, he suddenly changed. He shifted and sank his sharp fangs into Alice's wrist. This was her only chance. Everything else would depend on time. Chapter 29.
Dana.
Everything that was happening was incomprehensible to me. I had never encountered so much blood, never seen a person die for real. But I didn't blame either Theo or Liam. They were protecting us, me and Alice. And that was the most important thing. It meant that with Theo, I would be safe, like behind a stone wall. Of course, it would take time to forget this horror, but I wasn't losing hope and kept looking at the future with a smile. Right now, the most important thing was that Alice had to survive. After Liam bit Alice, we took her to the pack. She's been unconscious for the 3rd day, but I don't let the brothers give in to despair. As long as her heart is still beating, there's hope that she'll make it. After all, Theo managed to come back when everyone had almost lost hope. I made myself a ham sandwich, grabbed a cup of tea, and went to the living room. Sitting in front of the TV, I waited for Theo to return from his evening run. After everything that had happened, he decided to patrol the territory himself, and he also planned to build a tall fence around the pack and electrify it. He had stopped trusting anyone and wanted to keep everything under control. I had changed too, although I didn't immediately realize what had changed in me. I felt like a stranger in this place, though I hadn't noticed such thoughts before. I don't know. Maybe it's the aftermath of recent events, and soon everything will return to normal. I hope so. I had already eaten the sandwich and finished the tea when Liam walked into the living room. Well, beautiful, he said with a sad smile and sat next to me. Are you staying with Alice today? Of course, I replied. I'll look after her. Don't worry. Thanks. He kissed me on the cheek and left. I sighed, got up, carried the dirty dishes to the sink, washed the cup and plate, and then went to my room. Now it temporarily belonged to Alice, and I had moved to Theo's. Well, Liska, that's what I lovingly called her. Is everything going to be like before today, or are you going to change something? I said, knowing there would be no answer. I sat in the chair by her bed. I looked at her serene face and hoped she would wake up. Liam would be so happy. Again, that feeling of déjà vu. Every day, while Liam was walking his beast, I sat with Alice and waited for some change. But nothing was happening. For 3 days now, she had been feverish, which wouldn't go away. The brothers said it was normal during a transformation, but it had already been longer than usual. The fever should have gone down within a day, but it didn't. Maybe it was because of the head wound, I don't know. There was no point in taking her to the hospital, and the salves and tinctures from the local doctor weren't having any visible effect. Though they had once healed me after the hyena attack. It was hard to remember that. I'd been through a lot, but Alice was in no better state now. She was tossing and turning restlessly, her brows furrowed, her eyelids twitching. It seemed the medicine had stopped working, and the fever had only gotten worse. I dipped a cloth in warm water, wrung it out, and placed it on the girl's forehead. "You'll feel better now," I whispered and sighed. "Theo," Alice whispered faintly, but I was sure she had said my wolf's name.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
"It's all my fault," she muttered. I took her hand in mine, holding back my tears. Poor thing, she blames herself. If anyone is to blame, it's Amir, but there's nothing that can be done for him now. Alice kept repeating Theo's name, and then she fell silent. Soon, I heard the door open, and Theo entered the room. He placed his hands on my shoulders and asked, "How long have you been sitting here?" "About 10 minutes. And all this time, Liska has been repeating your name. She's asking for your forgiveness." I stood up, turned around, and pressed myself to him, feeling his strong body, and then said, "Poor thing, she can't forgive herself." I closed my eyes, enjoying his warmth and scent. "Everything will be fine, Dana," Theo whispered, stroking my head. "Do you believe in me?" "I believe." Alice. It's been 2 weeks since that fateful day when it seemed like my entire world had been shattered. But, to everyone's surprise, not only did I survive, but I also gained new abilities. Now I can transform into a she-wolf, although it's still difficult for me. My body literally screams in pain when the transformation happens. My bones feel like they're breaking, and I want to scream. But Liam assures me that over time, I'll get used to it, and the pain will become less noticeable. So I don't transform as often as I would like. Dana and I have become real friends. I'm truly grateful to her for everything. She was always there, taking care of me when Liam went on his runs. Speaking of Liam, in a month, we'll get married. Just as it should be. White dress, flowers, wedding rings. I'm happy, and it seems like I don't need anything else. But one question is still bothering me. How is it possible that I am a mate to 2 wolves at once? Liam said that as soon as he saw me, he knew I was his mate. But back then I was with Theo. He avoids answering all my questions, but now that the wedding is coming up, he can't hide from it anymore. I decided that I wouldn't wait any longer. I need to know the truth, so I went to find my future husband. Fortunately, now I can easily find him by his scent, the unique fragrance that drives me wild and turns everything inside me upside down. God, how I want him. It's like a magical obsession that I can't get enough of. I went outside and followed Liam's scent. I didn't even need to put on a jacket, even though the snow had started to fall. Wolves aren't afraid of the cold. I used to be a terrible cold weather person, so this is another perk of being a shapeshifter. I found Liam at the edge of the forest, covered with fresh snow. He was standing still, thoughtfully gazing into the distance. "What are you dreaming about?" I asked playfully, jumping up behind him and hanging on his neck. He turned around, embraced me, and kissed me. "About you," he answered with a satisfied smile. "Well, that's great. Take me, and I will. Aren't you afraid? Right here, on the snow, I'll take you." Liam smirked, gently grabbing me by the waist. "Take me? But first, answer the question," I said, narrowing my eyes and asking my question directly. "How is it possible that I'm a mate to both of you?" To be honest, I don't know either. I'm in shock about all of this. I've thought a lot about it, but haven't come up with a clear answer. However, I do have one idea, though I don't know how true it is. I interrupted him, recalling how I used to feel when I was around Liam. And I thought to myself, why do I feel so drawn to you? And before, I never told Theo about this, but when you were around, I felt some inexplicable emotions. I felt good with you, but I didn't give it much thought. Only now, after learning the truth, did I realize everything. So, what's your idea? Well, here's the thing. Because we're brothers. I've never heard of brothers sharing a mate, but it seems like that's the case for us. Though, honestly, it doesn't really matter anymore. Your bond with Theo is broken. He has Dana, and I have you. I sang playfully, and, overwhelmed with passion, I kissed him deeply.
Dana.
So, what's going on here? Theo smirked when we found ourselves in a snowy clearing and caught the couple kissing on the snow. Today, we decided to take a walk in the forest. I've always loved the snow, and when I woke up in the morning, I couldn't resist seeing this magical scene. By chance, Theo caught the scent of Liam and Alice nearby, and we decided to interrupt their romantic union a bit. Alice reluctantly pulled away from Liam's lips, and they both turned to face us. You should be ashamed of yourselves, Liam said with a smile, and we all couldn't help but laugh. This went on for a while. We recalled old jokes, laughed, and enjoyed the moment. I looked at the happy faces of my loved ones and friends, unable to believe that all the worst was behind us. Now, only a happy life awaited us. I wish I could say a long one, but unfortunately, I understood that this wasn't going to be the case for me.
Oh.
It's even scary to think about how Theo will cope with my loss, because most likely, I will be the first to leave for a better world. Damn. I'm thinking about these dark thoughts again. It's not the first time. The longer I think about it, the scarier it gets. Theo definitely won't survive the second loss. And asking him to turn me, that's terrifying. I don't know if I'm ready for that. And what about him? Will he want to? Breaking away from my gloomy thoughts, I noticed the guys discussing something important. Their faces were serious and focused. I've always felt like I didn't belong, Liam said, and I didn't immediately understand what he was getting at. It's yours by right, brother. And I hope this time you won't refuse to become alpha, like last time. Otherwise, I'll have to give you a punch. We all burst out laughing, and the tension in the air eased. Well, how about a race to that oak tree? Theo pointed to a tree in the distance, and without wasting any time, he took off his clothes, preparing for the transformation. Okay, Liam replied, quickly shedding his clothes as well. Can I join you? Alice asked, deciding to join the training.
It won't hurt me.
Of course, Liam replied with a smile, and in an instant, he was a wolf. He swiftly pounced on his brother, knocking him to the snow, while Alice, despite the pain, continued to struggle through her difficult transformation. I, on the other hand, once again felt out of place, and this feeling weighed heavily on me. We returned home, had a little snack, and then scattered to our rooms. I sat on the bed, staring at the floor, thinking about how to start a conversation with Theo. How should I tell him that I feel like an outsider in their pack? Something happened? Theo's soft breath burned my ear, and I felt the warmth of his body pressing against me from behind. No, I'm just a bit tired. I am human, it's natural, I said, trying to hint at something, but my words might have sounded like a complaint. Or maybe not. I don't know if Theo will understand what's really bothering me. Well, then rest, and I'll step out for a minute. I'll be back soon, he said softly, kissing my forehead, and left. I lay on the bed, curling up on my side. Soon I drifted off to sleep. I woke up to something wet and warm touching my face. I opened my eyes in panic and saw a wolf in front of me. Smiling, I sat up in bed and gently took its muzzle in my hands. You're so beautiful, I whispered, petting it. I remember so well when you first appeared in my life. It was something. I opened my eyes, and there was a real wolf in front of me. I didn't even realize how you got into the room. Well, I mean you. You screamed so loudly that I had to retreat quickly. He responded mentally, his voice in my head sounding playful. I laughed and, kissing the wolf on its cold nose, felt everything around me brighten. In a moment, Theo appeared before me, naked. His powerful torso was like a magnet, and every muscle of his made me want to touch it. A terrible heat washed over me, consuming my whole body, and a sweet yearning spread in my lower stomach. Theo pulled me toward him, and his lips captured mine in a kiss, passionate and relentless. One of his hands slipped under my shirt, gripping my breast, and I felt my breath falter, my heart racing wildly. I ran my hands down his wide back, feeling every muscle and fiber tense under my touch. And at some point, I lost control of myself. Eagerly, as if starving, I began to caress him. "Do you understand that I can't last long like this?" He rasped in my ear, panting with excitement, burying his face in my hair. "Neither can I exhaled, barely catching my breath. Theo wasted no time. He instantly stripped me of my clothes, tossing them onto the bed. Excitement overwhelmed me like a storm. Joy, passion, and the sense of cosmic closeness mixed inside me. Everything we had been through, everything we had gone through, had led us here, and in this moment, we didn't need anything else. We were together, and that was all that mattered. I buried my fingers in his soft hair, pulling him closer, craving his kisses. I wanted him fully, the real, hungry, and untamed version of him. That was how I loved him. Closing my eyes, I gently rested my head on Theo's chest, listening to the rhythm of his heart, which was becoming slower with each passing moment. When the haze that had clouded my mind finally lifted, my emotions returned to their usual flow, and with them came shame. My conscience, which had been hidden in the shadows before, now couldn't escape the thought. Surely, the whole pack heard my screams. How embarrassing. I touched my heated cheek, lightly biting my lip and suppressing a smile, hiding my face on my beloved's chest to conceal my embarrassed emotions. "What's wrong?" Theo asked with a smile. "Well, I'm just imagining what they're all thinking about us right now. Don't worry, it's the pack. No one cares about what's happening in our cabin. Believe me, on our way home, we often hear screams and moans," Theo said, quietly laughing, then continued, "Our hearing is like that, nothing escapes." His words made me freeze, and the smile on my face disappeared. I wasn't like Theo. He was special, and I was just an ordinary girl. I sighed softly and closed my eyes again, but before I could dive into my thoughts, he whispered, sending a shiver through my whole body. "Shall we do it again?" I couldn't help but smile and, pressing my lips to his, responded to the kiss, which was full of passion. 2 months passed and everything seemed perfect, but for the past week, I had noticed a change in Theo's behavior. He seemed down, thoughtful. I couldn't understand what was happening with him, and it was starting to worry me. What if he no longer loved me? What if he found someone else? Every day, the others and I went into the forest. The wolves frolicked happily in the snowy blanket, and I watched them, more and more often thinking about Theo and my future. What will happen when I start aging, and he remains as young and beautiful as ever? What will happen to him when I'm gone? Another loss? A new coma? Death from longing? These thoughts had haunted me since the day I started living with Theo, and they never let me rest. Of course, Theo noticed. "What's wrong, Dana?" he asked as we walked through the forest. "You're worried about something. Don't want to talk." I hid my face in my scarf and felt the cold wind touch my skin. I didn't want to talk about it. The feeling of anxiety was growing stronger. I was so afraid of losing Theo that I couldn't hold back my emotions and hugged him, pressing him to me, as if we were about to part. Tears rolled down my cheeks, hot against my skin. Theo gently took my hand and pulled me along with him. "Let's go," he said, leading me to a cleared glade. He sat on a bench and, pulling me toward him, he wrapped his arm around my waist. I ran my hand along his back and felt how his other hand held mine. He was here, and that gave me comfort. "What's going on?" His voice was full of care and love. I was afraid to meet his gaze, afraid to ruin the moment we were sharing. I didn't know how to start the conversation. "I don't know," I whispered quietly, avoiding his eyes, looking down. "You don't know?" he repeated, surprised. I feel out of place in the pack. I exhaled, barely managing to keep my voice steady. My heart started beating faster, and my stomach clenched with anxiety. Did I really just say that?
Why?
Theo asked, not understanding. "Because I'm human." "My silly girl," he chuckled, and leaning over, he gently kissed my neck. "Is that what this is about? You want me to turn you?" His voice carried a hint of knowing. I managed to say, burying my nose in his hair. "So, what's the problem?" "Whatever you want. It's the law for me, my love. I was going to propose this to you myself. I've been trying to gather my thoughts for a week now. I've been losing sleep, not knowing how you'd take my proposal. Sorry if I've been acting strange." So that's it. That's why he'd been so mysterious, and I had been running 1,000 scenarios in my head. "Really? And I can become like you?" I exclaimed, unable to hide my excitement. I jumped off Theo's lap and began happily hopping in front of him, clapping my hands like a little girl. Theo nodded with a smile. "You'll be the most beautiful wolf, my silly girl," he said, and his laugh was full of warmth. I squinted playfully, grabbed a mitten, and scooped up some snow. A moment later, a snowball flew at Theo. "Oh, so that's how it is," he responded with a playful growl. "Well, just wait." I sprinted away, but immediately felt a snowball hit me in the back. Spinning around, I grabbed some snow too and threw it at him, but he dodged it. This wasn't fair. While I was preparing my next attack, Theo already managed to hit me with a snowball. It landed right in my face, and I gasped in surprise. "Oh, sorry."
How low get?
"Do you think it's funny?" I snapped. "Now I'll show you how to laugh at a girl." I chased him, clutching a snowball in my hand. Our battle lasted for a long time, and when our strength ran out, we both fell into the snow, exhausted but happy. I lay on the cold ground, gazing at the endless gray-blue sky, feeling like I had never been so happy. I was with the man I loved, and soon I would become like him. We would live a long life, be happy, and one day we'd leave together, just from old age. Theo leaned over me, and our lips met in a long, tender kiss that felt eternal.